All right. That intro music, I'm sure you guys are all on a high note. We're going to start off the meeting with another high note. Pastor Rodney Kiles from the Assembly Church, RKM, is going to give us the invocation. Thank you, Pastor.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me here. Congratulations to Andy Wise and the baseball team. I see you guys out full force. Let's go ahead and open with prayer. Bow your head and close your eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus. Father, we want to thank you and praise you for bringing us here safely. Father, as the issues and different things come up, Father, we pray that the city council, give them wisdom. Give the city manager the wisdom to carry out the directives. Father, I pray protection over our fire chief and over our police chief. Father, be with us tonight. Give us patience and give us wisdom and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pastor, will you lead us in the pledge?
I sure will, sir. All right, put your right hands over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Okay, at this moment, City Council is open. If you wish to, well, we call it to order around here. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to fill out a blue card, turn it in to Sylvia. If you don't know how to do it, talk to Mr. Morgan. He'll teach you. We have a few revisions to the agenda. Item number 40, the staff report was updated. I know you guys were hoping for that. Item 43, the title description was updated. Again, riveting. Okay. About a month ago, I was invited to the Corona High School Baseball Awards night, where they, for 5 hours, talked about themselves. And they're first up here on presentations, but I'm thinking since I had to wait 5 hours, maybe I should move you guys to the end. And we'll talk about ourselves. Or we could invite the world champions, Corona High School, to come on up, and if we could have the council come on down as well.
Mr. Mayor, I was saying there's a couple gentlemen there that can throw the ball really hard. Maybe not want to make them mad.
Is Seth here? Seth Hernandez here? Well, he could have thrown the ball at Wes.
Thank you once again. Appreciate it.
So these guys are they're actually number one in the nation. They're champions. And the last time they were here, I said, don't come back unless you win. And they won. So they're here. This is their second proclamation as many months. They're also going to be in the parade this 4th of July. You'll be the highlights. So with that, you're world champions. I'm hoping we can get a council team picture because you guys are my favorite two teams. And okay, I'm just going to say, is Adrian here? Okay. We'll give these to you. Hang on to those, and then you speak.
Oh, outstanding. Much appreciated. I kind of chuckled when he said the best high school team in the world, but the reality is if you're number one in the nation, there's no other teams that are high school baseball that are kind of better than what we had right there. So a great group of fellas, and I wish everybody could be here today. We got a great group right here now. But just a good group to work with, some great families that are here today, and we're super honored to just represent the community for real. And these guys did a fantastic job. The target was on their back. Everybody's been saying that the whole year, so we were marked, and everybody's waiting for us to come get us. And so we had to stand up to that, and at the same time, people are looking to shine a light on us. If you ever mess up, you're going to get shined on real hard. And we did a really good job of not doing that. There's just quality gentlemen throughout the year, teachers saying good things, everybody in the community, everybody we went out to North Carolina, won the National High School Invitational, beating everybody else in the nation. So that was it's a rarity. And we came back and won the CIF Division I title out here, and nobody in the history of the two events have done that. Nobody's done that. So we were the first team to do that. And being a public school, it means it's a little more sweet. You know, everybody out there really kind of liked us. It was kind of cool. It almost was like people wanted us to win because the way we went about business was classy. We didn't rub it in people's faces. We knew we were going to be good, so we were very respectful with it. And back to it being a public school, I think a lot of people really wanted to see the little guy beat the big man, and we were the big man beating on that other big man pretty good, making everybody else look little in a way. So it was a lot of fun, and we really appreciate the support in the community. We getting out to the parades and such and doing these things. So it's an honor, and once again, like I said, we got a great group, and we're going to continue doing what we do. So thank you guys so much for having us once again and doing our thing, letting us do our thing.
And when you're a mayor, you don't have to be as humble. So I've been on Facebook, on the Orange Lutheran sites, and been throwing the smackdown. So
Well, let me get Joseph Murphy up here to speak peace about that. He's the man.
can we get a picture? You guys want to intermingle? Yep. You guys are better looking.
Here, I'll be on this side.
I was going to say, Councilmember Casillas and I are the only Panthers up here.
Okay.
Repeating next year, right?
Graduated in the last century. Oh, yeah. The signing bonuses alone.
Mayor, if I may, I know that they're leaving, but I just wanted to brag just a little bit more. I mean, there were individual accolades was, CIF Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. In their finals game against Harvard Westlake, one of their players hit a home run that I don't think has landed yet. I mean, they just played lights out baseball. And from a person that has never played baseball, I played every other sport but baseball. It has been so much fun to watch that high school team play. I mean, they do it for all the right reasons rather than the pros or even college teams. But it was so much fun, and it was just a packed game every home game with a bunch of guys with the radar guns that were, scouts, I'm assuming, and from professional teams and college teams and whatnot. So, I know that they have a good core group of kids that are coming back next year, so with huge targets on their back. So I hope that not only Corona fans, but just Corona high school fans, but just Corona fans in general. It's a great team to support, and I love the fact that they are a public school team that are just taking it to a lot of private school teams.
Well spoken, Tony. Okay. Meeting minutes. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for meeting minutes?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for the meeting minutes.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. All right.
Councilmember Daddario, your vote.
5-0. Okay, consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Would my colleagues like to pull anything? Nothing, Wes?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Take your time. Jackie?
I just have to recuse myself from, do you remember which one, Ms. Edwards?
It's a public hearing.
Oh, just joking, not yet.
All right. Let the record be shown. Jim?
Nothing.
Okay. Wes?
Number 10. And I want to record a no vote on number 11 and number 8.
You got those, Sylvia? 11 and 8? And are there any requests from the
Mayor, yes, I have one speaker card for agenda item number 8.
number 8? Okay. Any others? And you guys are good? All right, do we have a motion? Oh, 14.
Oh, sorry, and 17. Just, yeah, 17, sorry.
Joe, you're 14? West 17?
Yep.
We can still vote after saying all that? Okay. Five oh. All right, let's start with number 8.
We didn't pull number 8, just voted no on number 8.
But a member of the public pulled
Oh.
number 8. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, that item that was pulled by Mr. Richard Nguyen.
Okay, Richard, feel free.
Quick. Richard Wynn with the Corona Historic Preservation Society. Our feeling is that the authorization of the desecration of a historic resource is not a routine matter. Thank you very much.
That was quick. Do we need to vote on it, or?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? No?
I'll second.
All right. Four one. Okay, up next is number 10. Wes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to get an explanation for the public. It's unusual thing, beneficial, but unusual. And I think it just would help to get it out there a little bit more. It almost sounds like when I first read it, it sounds like a scam. So I want to make sure that we're saying what the city is doing in relation to this and how it benefits both the city and the ratepayer for Edison. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got Katie Hockett, our Assistant Director of Utilities. She can talk about this.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Speak. City Council, the item before you, item number 10, is actually two pieces. There's one piece which is enrolling several city Edison accounts into this community renewable program. So what the community renewable program is it's a contract with Edison and this long company name, RB Inyo Kern WDAT, represented by Power Market, and the vendor is here tonight if you have specific questions for the vendor. So what we would do is we would enroll these accounts in this program, and the program is for people who can't or don't have the resources to install their own rooftop solar. So if you live in an apartment, or maybe you don't own your own home, you're a tenant, then you can participate in this solar project that's out near Ridgecrest in Inyo County, and you get the benefit of having solar without having to actually install it. So you get a full credit from Edison on your bill for the amount that is established by Edison. They establish the credit amount, and then you pay 90% of that credit back to Power Market, and you get a 10% credit. So no matter what amount of energy you use for that month, you get a 10% credit. The calculation, I'm sure that Mr. Kaplan can go into that more, but that's what we're doing. And we're enrolling several city accounts. With the city council's approval, we will enroll all these accounts. They cover many different departments, parks, some utilities accounts. They're GS1 rate tariffs. That's how we determined that these were the ones that were eligible. And then item number 2, in addition to us enrolling the city accounts in these programs, is the second piece is a memorandum of understanding with Power Market to say that the city is, in essence, endorsing Power Market to do outreach to our community using the city's branding and logo to say, yes, we encourage you to participate in this program. This is legit. This is not a scam. And that the city is, in essence, sponsoring by allowing the use of the logo. It's a 6-month outreach campaign.
Okay, so my questions, I think, were, they keep using the word credit, that it's established on a credit versus a credit value, and that credit value, those don't mean anything to me, being a ratepayer. I'm usually paying on a kilowatt basis or whatever. So my question was, how is that credit set versus what Edison's normal rate would be? So it's 90% of that rate.
Yeah, Edison sets the credit amount, and then from that credit, the actual discount to the customer is the 10%. So if Edison says your credit is $100 and they take $100 off your bill, then Power Market will say, okay, now you owe us $90. So you saved $10. You saved $100 on your bill, but then you paid us the $90.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure. It was a little bit confusing in some of the different language. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood, because I can almost hear it already, that this sounds like a scam and they're selling me something, and I just want to, and the other question I had, maybe the proponent can answer the question, what sets that rate? Is there any indication that, or any reason why that Edison would set that credit rate as being, or that equal to less than what people, or more than what people would pay normally? I'm guessing I see a gentleman looks like he's itching to talk. Go right there.
If you want to stand at the microphone, they can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members. My name is Jason Kaplan. I'm the president of Power Market. So to answer your question, the community solar or community renewable credit rate is set by the Green Tariff Share Renewables tariff. So it's an Edison tariff that actually sets that credit rate. And the credit rate, what that is going to be a fixed rate per kilowatt hour that's generated by the community solar project. And so essentially when a resident of Corona subscribes to the program, we're going to look at their last 12 months of energy usage. And when the project starts generating clean energy, we're going to transfer to them the credits from that community solar project onto their bill. That transfer of credits is going to result in a negative value, nominal dollars that are being applied to that customer's bill. So as Katie was saying, that credit value could be $100, reducing that customer's bill by $100. We'll charge that customer $90 for the value of that $100, thereby they're saving $10. To your question, council member, the credit value, the subscriber to our project will never be in a negative position because we're always only charging that customer 90% for the value of that energy.
Okay, so that was my question, was the amount that you're charging or Edison is giving a credit to is what you're getting back for generating the power.
Correct. So we're like monetizing the value, but at a discount to the customer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Okay. Let's open up. All right, Sylvia, are there any public comments?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Then I'll move.
Okay, all right. Vote your conscience. Good luck. Five oh. Okay, number 14 was, number 14 is Joe. Feel free to come on down. First Amendment to the cost sharing agreement with Rest Area LLC to the amount of $143,000. The floor is yours, Joe.
So it's interesting in light of the afternoon meeting where, it was like the discussion was like, oh God, what do you think, we're made out of money? Just golly gosh, to build a downtown would cost a lot of money. Well, I guess I know you can afford $150,000 to help with the parking lot, which seems obvious that it's a reasonable thing to do. But I guess your commitment to doing something serious really almost seems like it ends there. Just so everybody knows in the room, you sort of summarily dismissed building a performing arts center downtown. Well, the private sector wants to do it. If you're not willing to spend anything more than $143,000 to actually build something, you can't really expect anybody else to do it. It's disheartening. One, last week to see last meeting to see the depot kind of go bye-bye. And then this week to sort of see the downtown being doomed to be another Metro at Maine without any real attractions. Because you're like, wow, golly, we just don't have enough money. God, it's so expensive. If you're not willing to invest in anything downtown, anything serious, then nobody else is going to either. And you got this one guy, you got the one brew pub, I guess we're helping him out to $150,000. Good for you for doing that, but it just shows exactly the limits of your vision and your fortitude. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. Sylvia, are there speaker cards on this one?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards on this item.
Okay, we'll close public comments. Does anybody here have any comments?
I just wanted to ask, when is that scheduled to begin and be finished?
Jacob?
I know it should be done by the end of the year. So what's the beginning time for construction on that? This is, of course, just taking care of the design.
We're going to be awarding it in July, August, and bring it to council to award sometime in September. So we should be starting construction in the fall.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion? All right. Vote away. 5-0. Okay, number 17, First Amendment to Maintenance General Services, blah, blah, blah. Wes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. I just was reading it, and I talked to some of our neighbors in El Cerrito, and there was some consternation that the city wasn't going to take care of these folks, and a couple of community leaders in that area kept saying, it's going to be fine, just give them time. And I was very happy to see this. So I just wanted to thank staff for going the extra mile to ensure that our neighbors that we service for water, that we took care of their street for them. So that's all. I just wanted to say thank you to staff.
Thank you, Wes. Sylvia, are there any speaker cards for this?
Mayor, we do not have speaker cards for this item.
Okay, with that, public comments closed. Any of my council members have questions? No? Wes moves. I'll second. Okay, 5-0. Up next, always goes fast. Up next, communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within this council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please leave your name and city of residence. Joseph, I think you're up first.
Good evening. My name is Yusuf Bagani. I'm a resident of Corona for 25 years. By the way, I'm actually celebrating my 25th anniversary today. I moved in 5th June 1999 to Corona, and I
Yosef.
love this city.
Joseph, will you rotate it?
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and citizens of Corona. Today I'm here to talk about an organization which is very close to my heart. And I want to thank all of you that you all have participated in our food drives and everything. It's For the People Task Force. For the People Task Force actually have served over 75,000 families in the last 4 years. We have distributed over 50 million pounds of food throughout Southern California. And we'll be doing all this with the help of community and our own funds. But we came to the point where we need to grow and we need the support of the community. So we are having our first fundraiser on June 28th at Corona City Center. I want to thank the Park and Recreation who actually helped us secure the venue. And I hope the citizens of Corona will be supporting us by participating in this event. We also add one more thing to this event, is the Adam Nemeth Volunteer of the Year Award. As you all know, that Adam was actually a volunteer with us. He was amazing, outstanding, and he served in every single food drive with us. Unfortunately, his life got cut short with the tragic accident a couple of months ago. So we decided that it's the best time to start this event under his name. So we're also looking for names of people you think should get the first Adam Nemeth Volunteer of the Year Award. And we like to ask citizens of Corona, city council members, city staff, head of all the departments to please join us on June 28th at Corona City Center. And hopefully we'll make this a successful event for all of us and we can continue serving the community, because at For the People Task Force, we believe that we are for the people and we are by the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Maddie?
Council members, I'm Maddie Paxton. I've been a 32-year resident of Corona. And the first thing I wanted to is just my gratitude for whosever idea it was to decorate the utility boxes. Somebody beat me to it on Facebook today, but it's amazing to drive around town and see them. It's wonderful. So thank you very much for adding to that. The second thing, a couple months ago, a friend of mine from Orange County asked me why do we have purple fire hydrants in Corona? So of course I talked with Chief Young and suggested he give a little talk about it. He nominated me. So the differences in colors, as you can see, there's the yellow, the red, the purple, white, and then blue over yellow. I know to firefighters it means how many gallons per minute, but for most of us, sorry, it's not as important. The yellow ones are the ones that you see most often. And those are serviced and maintained by the city's Department of Water and Power, and they're the most reliable, and it's the most in the city. The second are the red ones, and those are private hydrants, and they are serviced and maintained by the owner of the property. The third one, the purple one, is for reclaimed water. And the bottom line on that is it's not potable water, it's not drinkable water. Do not drink from anything from the purple ones. They're used to water the medians, the parks, etc., but it's not drinkable water. The white ones are the deficient hydrants, and they're, according to Chief Young, they're rarely used, and it doesn't provide the required fire flow. And then somewhere he said there's a couple blue over yellow, and there's just a questionable water output. And I also want to bring to mind For those that are aware, we had a brass fire hydrant that was placed October 2nd, 1998. And I want to thank Rich Wynn for giving me some information about that. And it was located in front of where the Starbucks is now. Oh, thank you. By South Main Street by 8th Street, right in the northeast corner. And unfortunately, it was stolen on October 24th, 2021. Thank you. And then I've learned, be careful asking him questions, because then I get tasked for work.
Maddie,
Yes.
really quick, I wish that you had brought this about 2.5 years ago, because I was driving on Joy Street and there's a purple fire hydrant that most of the trucks that require water fill up at. And it was on a Friday. I'll never forget this, because I called Tom Moody at about 7:30 in the morning, and I think he was asleep. And I woke him up and I was like, why is there a truck filling up from a fire hydrant? And he goes, what color is the hydrant? And I said, it's purple. And he goes, there's a meter on it, and that's where they're supposed to fill up. And I'll be damned. I thought that somebody was stealing water, and my next call was going to be to the chief of police trying to figure out why someone is stealing water. So only 2.5 years ago did I know that purple fire hydrants is reclaimed water, and that's where they're supposed to fill up, as long as there's a meter on it.
And,
I didn't know
as
that there were
someone,
meters.
as somebody who likes to know really weird things, I had no idea. I mean, I knew purple, but I didn't know all the other colors. So thank you. I appreciate learning something today.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you, Chief Young, for giving me this task.
Now I'm going to
Thank
go
you.
look for the blue and yellow one. It's going to be a
I've
hunt.
asked, I'm going to defer that question to him, because I've asked the same question.
Yeah. And I think this is another example of be careful what you ask for, because then you're going to have to present on it.
Exactly.
Great job, Maddie. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chief Newman, if you can give Maddie your next assignment for. Desiree?
Good evening, Mayor Richens, Councilmember D'Addario, Councilmember Speak, Councilmember Casillas, and Councilmember Steiner. My name is Desiree Ramirez, and I am the Vice President at the Corona Chamber of Commerce. And I am here to invite you all and the community to our inaugural event, Taste of Corona, on Saturday, June 22nd. It's going to be an amazing event. If you've not already heard about it, you can check the website out at tasteofcorona.com. We will be featuring our food exhibitors here within the city of Corona, music and beer and drinks. Tickets are $30, and that includes entry to the event and also in 10 tastes. We're charging for tickets for, 10 and under are free, and it's a family friendly event, and every attendee will be getting a box that comes in with our logo on it and sponsor to hold their tastes and their drinks. So I invite you to come out, support the event and the community as well. It's at the Shops at Dos Lagos, again, Saturday, June 22nd, and we hope to see you there.
All right. Thanks, Desiree.
You're welcome.
David?
Council, my name's David Brambilla. I'm a resident of Corona. First off, I want to commend the City Council for all the paving of our roads on Main Street, Grand, and all the side streets. The city is looking very beautiful, and I appreciate you guys doing that. The reason why I'm up here, though, I wanted to commend you first. Last time I was here, I was a little upset, but I just want to continue that conversation. Last meeting, we had Michelle Wentworth came up and gave a presentation of all the issues going on with the city park. One of the things that's very concerning is the fact that, one, we have two key individuals from the Parks Commission have resigned, and their reasons are they're not being listened to. They're the items that they were tasked to do aren't they're not being taken seriously. That's a great generalization. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is seems like we're not listening to anybody. We're not taking any feedback from the community. There was nothing mailed out to the residents of the city park to figure out what they wanted. There is a parks master plan which was adopted by the city council, but seems like we aren't following that master plan, and I'm a little confused on that. The master plan is a plan that's supposed to get us to the end of the project, and the fact that it's not being followed, it's disconcerting. You know, I guess the biggest issue I have right now is where the communication that's happening with the city and the residents of Corona. You know, we talked about the 6th Street expansion and the businesses. We never reached out to the businesses to let them know and figure out and have them come here and speak. You know, we had the Veterans Memorial. That was another miscommunication. The veteran organizations here in Corona didn't get the word. And now we're building this park. We have the commissioners that are resigning. And it's the same thing happening over and over again. We're not listening. We're not asking our neighbors, our public, what they want. We're excluding businesses. We're excluding veterans. We're excluding residents within the park. Guys, this is scary. I have the utmost respect for each and every one of you, but we need to hit the pause button on this. I know item 11's already been pushed forward, but we need to go back to this master plan and figure out what we're doing wrong. We're doing something wrong when we have 2 key people resign. And I don't need to get into the details of that, but it's a scary situation, and I'm very concerned for our city and what's happening up here. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Dale?
Three quick things. The homeless thing continues in our area as it does in the city. And we have a first. Somebody's had the guts to pull a travel trailer on the golf course and set up camp now. So in case anybody hears anything about that, I want you to know it's been addressed with the developer and it'll get fixed. But that's a new one to me. The second issue is the meeting that was in the library. I wasn't impressed. We were led to go to a meeting based on it being a 1.5-hour presentation. I was expecting like 1,000-foot, 2,000-foot view. And it was a 30-minute presentation. It was a 30,000-foot view and basically no new news. It was that high of a view. There were no question and answer periods. And I know that the intent was for the people to go talk to the different people around the table. But it would have been nice, and I talked to 3 or 4 business owners after the meeting. They weren't happy on 6th Street. They own businesses, they'd never been contacted. It comes across as disingenuous. These business owners would like to know what's gonna go on, what's the plan, can they afford to stay there, should they get out now, should they get out later? And I think the city needs to take a more aggressive role in contacting the community. Maybe 1 can miss his mail, maybe 2. But when you get 3 or 4 business owners that are clueless on what's going on, and they feel like they're being sucked into a vacuum and they don't know what's going on, that's not right. The last issue is kind of what the last gentleman said. We know that we know that you've lost 2 of the hardest working parks commissioners we have. There's nobody in line right now to get behind them, to step up to the level they did. And then when I talked to somebody at the back table, their comment was Commissioner X, I'm not going to name a name, is not happy if you don't do everything she suggests. That's not the point. What she's unhappy with, Commissioner X, is that there's not the communications. She didn't feel she had an ear. And I'm talking about you, Jacob. If there would have been conversations, an airing of thoughts and a discussion, those people are professional enough to have a disagreement, a non-view, a non-agreement, but not to have the level of communications that they would have liked to have seen. They're not Joe Blow and Joe whatever off the street. They've put 8 to 10 years into this. All they want is an ear, and they don't feel they have it. I don't believe those 2 would have quit if they had the ear. It's a shame to lose an asset like that. That's it.
Robert? My bad, Richard.
Vargas. I live in Corona, but I want to talk about what happened. Did you guys figure out, are they going to move the depot, Corona Depot? Or I didn't hear about the Corona Depot.
I can, are you okay if I answer that?
Yes.
We're still looking into if it is possible to move the depot. We're doing all the homework right now.
Okay. Because I would think it would be a good place, how about the Corona Park, putting it in there? It's close. It belongs in the circle right around there, close by. If not, right next to the theater where the parking lot you guys are gonna fix. You know, and because we need that historical building close by, not put away far away or knocked down. So if we could, it's up to you guys. You know, you're the ones that could speak to anybody, federal, state, to get this stuff going and take care of our city and all our historical, what's left. You know, and plus the landscaping is terrible in a lot of places I've seen. You know, talk to the state or whoever works on the freeways. We got Temecula, beautiful off ramps, and we got Corona. The off ramps looks like third world. I don't know. It's just embarrassing, and you can't blame the homeless because it's just no one. There's no rakes. There's no shovels. No trash. No one's picking up anything. It's just I live in Corona, and I take pride in my town, you know, so if it would be nice if we could, you know, have someone clean up the city, blame the homeless. It's just regular wear and tear and trash, pick it up. So, you know, I clean my yard, I clean my house, my street, and I don't understand why city of Corona, which we're bigger than, Eastvale's getting better than us, and they just started, you know, how Corona that's been around for hundreds of years, you know, 100 years or so, we can't even just take care of our own town. And then this thing we want to do on 6th Street, you know, is there any way we could do like a makeshift thing, you know, first with some block it and just see how it works and see if it could work without spending millions. And, you know, I really appreciate everything you guys do, you know, but we got to remember, you guys are our voice, you know, you guys are the ones that got to talk to the ones that are in charge in the state and federal, and because we got to take care of our town, you know, make people come over, or else they'll just bypass us and go to Temecula, Eastvale, Cucamonga, Riverside. Right here, we got a beautiful town. Let's take care of it. Don't be spending millions. We already got nice things. Just take care of it.
Thank you for the feedback, sir. I wanted to make note, thanks for noticing that the graffiti, we still have a graffiti problem. We've just invested money into trying to take it down quicker. So thank you for the feedback.
But I noticed that when you do cover graffiti, it winds up looking worse than the graffiti itself. I mean, you could blend in some colors, but you come with some colors, pink, and you couldn't even see it in the first place. It was right there under the tunnel. So sometimes just like I went to Europe and the graffiti, they didn't even worry about the graffiti. They just left it alone. They worried about the streets.
Thank you.
And people that won't fall and trip.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening again, Joe Morgan, 2063 Rand. So, you know, having, just for context, Michelle Wentworth was appointed by now Supervisor Spiegel when she was on the council. So that meant she went through the Talbert era. She went through being both publicly and privately ridiculed and straight-armed, and went through the David Montgomery Scott era, you know, went through the Dr. Turner era, made it through all that, made a bunch of moves, got a bunch of stuff done, and improved everything, managed the system. And then when it came time to deal with this management group and this council, she said, "That's it. I can't handle this anymore." So she made it through the Talbert era when nothing could happen, and then said, "Enough here." That should tell you something. That should tell you something. You know, being the line that I heard in this room and in private from multiple sources is, and watched in the Parks Commission meeting was, well, you just didn't give us enough time to convince you that we're right. We're right. We've already decided that we're right. We already know what we're doing. You just haven't listened closely enough. You just haven't heard suitable explanations for our extremely awesome judgment. So now I watched you guys spent a decent amount of money about a performing arts center, did a whole feasibility study, did the whole thing. And then you said 200 million. I think, yeah, we can't do that. We can't take a risk like that. But you didn't do that same thing. You didn't do that same level of diligence. You sent the assistant city manager out there to crunch some numbers and said, yep, this will work. And then no problem buckling up to $250 million for something that you know is going to be an economic, maybe if you're lucky, we won't lose all of it. It's not going to be any, there's no multiplier effect to that. Okay? There's not going to be any great amount of economic return to that. But you could decide that a performing arts center is not going to work downtown. But no problem. We could blow $250 million worth of borrowed money on a lazy river and a pay-for-play version of Circle City Center. Just swoop it from here and move it over there. That's no problem. Skinnying up the street, it'll be all good. And then you wonder why good people don't want to participate. You wonder why people don't want to come down here. Why you think it's worthless. Why? Because you think we shouldn't participate. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Joe. Rich?
Richard Wynn, a 47-year resident of Corona. Recently, I observed the April council study session where City Park redevelopment concepts were finalized and I can't read. And in an expedited manner without any discussion or little discussion, using a thumbs up or thumbs down for roll call votes. In my experience, and I've attended city, county, state meetings in the past, never have I seen such unprofessional conduct, either by the city manager or by the city council members for tolerating it. I also watched the Parks Commission meeting last month where Commissioner Wentworth read from the Corona Parks Master Plan the requirements for studies, surveys, and all kinds of pre-decision-making activities necessary for good park planning and stewardship. Most of these seem to have been ignored or waived by the city manager without explanation, and they were reported as not necessary or not accomplished. What concerns me greatly is that the information which would have been obtained from these sources, and some of this is mentioned by other speakers this evening, from the facts acquired that identified improvements are what the public wants and the costs can be determined and fixed. We, the public, and our elected representatives, you sitting there at the dais, have been deprived of this information necessary to make the best decisions. We're likely to get an overdeveloped piece of real estate, is what's in the cards. My more than 20-year background of flying in the U.S. Air Force taught me the value of checklists. These the park plan requirements are the same as flight checklists to me. If you follow the checklist, you taxi, take off, fly the desired route, and land safely. Anyone who watches aircraft disasters on TV can tell you that if you ignore, forget, or do not complete them, the likelihood of a bad outcome or crash rises exponentially. 10 years of my military service was as a flight examiner who evaluates the performance of other aircrew members. Crew members who neglect following the checklist are disqualified for performing aerial duties until they've been relearned. Mr. City Manager, you failed your no-notice check ride. From what I've seen and heard, the input from people most likely to utilize this park has been ignored and marginalized. So we're going to get what Jacob wants rather than what Corona needs. We better be prepared to rename City Park to its new name, the Jacob Ellis Memorial Park and Recreation Area, because there'll be nothing of historic about the final product. Thank you.
All right. Sylvia, are there any other speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards.
Okay. With that, communications from the public is closed. Moving on to public hearings, number 30, resolution amending the electric energy rules and regulations in the schedule of user service fees for the provision of electric energy to adopt a new tariff for eligible renewable generation and revise the existing tariff for next energy metering, and approval of the revised net metering agreement and the eligible renewable generation agreement. I'm sure you all followed along with that. Does any council member want a staff report on this item?
I just wanted a little clarification, just so folks would know what this really means to them, that they can put solar, because there was some questions of folks that were in Dos Lagos that were saying when they weren't allowed to put solar, and all this does is just make it easier, and they're trued up with what Edison does is what we do, correct?
Well, you're in luck, Wes, because Aaron Hinkle, our electric utility manager, can help explain all of this. Aaron, best of luck to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. So today I'm here to discuss the changes that we're recommending to the electric energy rules and regulations and the schedule of user fees for the electric utility. The changes that we're recommending are related to this new program that we'd like to adopt, the Eligible Renewable Generation, or the ERG program. This is a supplemental solar program to our current solar program, the Net Energy Metering Program, or the NEM program, that was adopted in 2021. So the NEM program, as it is intended to provide financial credits to our customers, our solar customers, for any surplus energy that they generate. The requirements for the systems, they must be under 1 megawatt, and they must not exceed their current load. So any new systems can come in, they cannot exceed the customer's current load. So under the NEM program currently, customers are evaluated monthly, and they're determined whether they are net producers or net consumers, depending on whether they're consuming more energy than they're producing or producing more energy than they're consuming. Net consumers are billed at their regular rate per their bill, and net producers are actually given a credit, which is in the form of a kilowatt hour, which can be rolled to the following month and applied to their following bill. At the end of a 12-month period, those customers have the option to receive a payment at the net surplus compensation rate, which is currently the same as Southern California Edison's net surplus compensation rate. So per the CPUC's requirement, PUC 2827, we adopted this NEM program. And the rules with this program are that once we hit 5% of our maximum coincident peak demand, which we have now reached, that is our requirement. We're required to offer that program up until that point. So we are creating a new program to be a supplemental program to that. Our NEM customers will remain on the NEM program. They will not be changed. They will be the same as they are currently. The ERG program is only for new applicants. So any new customers that come in would be under this ERG program. The difference with the ERG program, and we're kind of aligning with what Edison is doing here, is that we're going to be looking at their usage more on an hourly basis. So are you a net producer or a net consumer during that hour? If you're a net consumer, you'll be billed per your normal regular rates. If you are a net producer, then you'll receive a credit, but you'll receive a credit at the new ERG rate that we've calculated. This ERG rate is based upon our variable cost to purchase power. So it's not including fixed costs, it's just the variable costs. The ERG rate then, we'd also like to take that rate and apply it at now the NSCR rate, which is applied for the NEM customers when they receive their 12-month payment. Part of this action is to make the ERG rate and the NSCR rate the same rate. Essentially, we would look at that once a year. We would determine what our costs are for the year, and that's recalculated every year on November 1st. The NSCR rate that we are calculating is currently less than Edison's by a good amount. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, it's more than Edison's, so they actually would receive a higher credit, the NEM customers, than they currently would. And with the approval of that, the ERG program in every other way is identical to the NEM program. It is only this billing change that is the difference. If requested, the ERG customers do have the opportunity to be put on a wait list to be put into the NEM program if any capacity does open up in the future. Did anybody have any questions?
That was exactly what I wanted. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
couldn't have said it better. Sylvia, are there any speaker cards?
Mayor, can you please open the public hearing?
Here we go. I declare the public hearing's now open. Sylvia, are there any speaker cards?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay, with that, we will close public hearings. Any of you guys have questions? You're good? Jim, good? Okay, can we have a motion?
I'll second.
All right. It's 5-0. Moving right along in this booklet of agenda. Number 31, public hearing confirming the diagram and assessment for Lighting Maintenance District 84-1 for fiscal year 25 and to detach certain territory from the district. Does any council member want a staff report? Wes, you're good? You're cool? Jim's cool? The public hearing is now open. Sylvia, are there any speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion? I'll second. I love this computer. All right, number 32, public hearing confirming the diagram and assessment with zones 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 10, 15, 17, 18, and 19. Some of them are prime numbers of Landscape Maintenance District number 84-2 for fiscal year 25. Anyone want to? No? Okay, the public hearing is now open. Sylvia, I'm guessing no one?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
The public hearing is now closed. I'll make the motion. Somebody want a second?
Second.
All right. If anybody's watching from home, they'll be asleep in 5 minutes. Number 33, public hearing confirming the diagram and assessment within Zone 14 of Landscape Maintenance District number 84-2 for the fiscal year of 2025. Just want to make you known that Councilmember Casillas is not allowed to vote on this.
Do I have to leave the room? Or may I just?
If there's discussion on the item, you do need to leave the room.
These guys aren't going to discuss it.
Does anybody want to make Jackie leave the room?
You are required to leave the dais, but I would suggest you just stand real close in the corner because I don't think there'll be much discussion on this.
Oh boy, Jackie's in the corner. All right, does anybody want, oh, she left. Does anybody want a discussion on this? No? Okay, public hearing is now open. Sylvia?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Public hearing is now closed, and we can, I'll second. Somebody made the motion already. Wes made the motion. Okay, 4-0. Jackie's out of timeout. And we lost Wes. Oh, I see why. Number 34, public hearing confirming the diagram and assessment within Zone 20 of Landscape Maintenance District number 84-2 for fiscal year 2025. Just as a note, council member speak will be in the corner. Does any council member want to report? Jackie, no? Jim, no? Okay.
If we have a discussion, that means he has to stay there for longer?
In the corner.
Just joking, I'm just joking. Sounds good.
Any member of the public like to keep Wes in the corner? Sylvia, the public comments is now open.
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay, public comments is now closed. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay. And Wes can come out of the corner. Welcome back, Wes. The RCTC report will be long. Number 35, public hearing confirming the diagram and assessment for lighting maintenance district number 2003-1 for fiscal year. No one's in the corner on this one. Does anybody want a report? I'm going to go no. The public hearing is now open. Master Sergeant, City Clerk, any comments?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Public hearing is now closed. Motion? Second?
Councilmember Speak.
All right. More time on that and you'll be back in the corner, Speak. Number 36, public hearing and election for annexation number 38 into Community Facilities District number 2016-3. Does any council member want to report on this? No. The public hearing is now open. Sylvia, any comments?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay, you and I are going to have a conversation now. I think this is one of our first ones ever. Sylvia, do you have proof of publication and mailing of the notice of the public hearing?
Yes, I do.
All right. Have any written protests been received?
We have not received any written protest.
Are there any registered voters within the area to be annexed to the CFD? And if so, hang on. And if so, how many?
There are no registered voters.
You wrote this. Have the owners of all taxable property proposed to be annexed to the CFD agreed to hold the special election on June 5th, 2024?
Yes, they have.
Good job. Do you agree to hold the special election on June 5th, 2024?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment or ask questions regarding this item?
We did not receive any speaker cards.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Do we have this item will require two motions. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
You don't have to read it.
Okay, recommendation. Look at that vote. Ms. Edwards, have you received any ballots and have canvassed the ballots and
Mayor,
tallied?
sorry, we have to vote on this item.
Oh, sorry, my bad. We were so close.
Councilmember Daddario.
Can I read it now?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards, have you received any ballots and have canvassed the ballots and tallied the results?
Yes, I received one ballot and all votes are cast in favor of levying the special taxes.
Okay, there we have it. Do we have a motion? We're going to do it again. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. All right. That's what it's all about right there. Number 37.
Mayor, I need to recuse myself from 37 because I'm a board member for Peppermint Ridge.
All right, into the corner with you. Yeah, very bad council members tonight. 37, public hearing for the city council consideration of the 2024-2025 action plan for community development block grant and home investment partnership programs. Does any council member want a staff report on this item? Jackie does. Sorry, Jim. Cynthia Lara, community assistance manager, will provide a report. Good luck, Cynthia.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. This is our final action plan under the current 5-year consolidated plan. So we are going to bring to you our entitlement that we have received for this coming fiscal year. And some of the subject matters that we're going to cover is going to be the actual entitlement amount, the activities within this entitlement plan, and then also to daylight that we also have the preparation of the next 5-year consolidated plan for you. So under the entitlement letter that we received from HUD on May 7th, we are receiving, I can't see with these glasses far. We are receiving just shy of $1.1 million under our CDBG program. We are receiving $405,000 and some change there for our home activities. And so in total there, we're looking at approximately $1.5 million of entitlement funds for us to utilize. Under the CDBG program, we have these prescribed limitations where only 20% of that grant can be used for administration. 15% is for our public service providers, I should say, and then the remainder of that goes under our housing activities and other infrastructure and facility activities. Our service providers have been fantastic partners with us over the past 3 years. There was a commitment that as long as they performed, they would get up to 4 years of funding. They are all performing very well, and so we are going to recommend that the same 6 service providers receive their last year of funding as we committed. And so this is the list. We have ABC Hopes, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Peppermint Ridge, Starting Over, Voices for Children, and of course our fair housing activities, which is an obligation as a recipient of these funds. The next category, which is the largest, the 65%, is under our capital category here, which includes housing activities, community facility improvements, infrastructure improvements. And as we've done in the past, we continue to make recommendations to fund our code compliance partners. They do a fantastic job under the housing category. They go into our target area and they do inspections for health and safety living conditions. And so they are very, they're, like I said, a fantastic partnership with our planning director and her team over there. And then the second project that we're proposing would be the 3rd year of our 3-year park project plan. And so the 3rd year project is we would go back to Victoria Park for the community center and do some rehab improvements there with your concurrence, of course. The next funding source is the home funding source, and the $405,000 and change would be distributed accordingly. We have administration. This one has a cap of 10%. Our project activities is the lion's shares of this grant at 75%. And lastly, our CHOTA reserve. This is a regulatory set aside that we have to comply with. And so we would continue and recommend that we continue funding the TBRA program. That's in collaboration with our homeless strategic plan activities. So we do recommend that, and just the carve out that we're required to under that CHOTA set aside, and then of course just a small percentage for us to administer the grant at $40,000. And so here we are again. It's been 5 years. Since the last action plan planning process, and so we're here once again having to start that process. We've already done a little soft start to it with working on our language proficiency plan that we just updated and has been already updated into our website, CDBG webpage. And the next thing that we plan on moving forward on is the rest of the activities. That takes roughly about 11-month process to get approved. We will be coming back to you in May of next year, so 11 months from today. And right here, we have a little timeline of all the activities. The data analysis activities will occur in the next couple of months, starting in July. Then we continue with our outreach program. We are going to do everything we did last time and then some. We're working with our community outreach partners to do, in addition to direct mailers to everyone, the citywide survey, the outreach to our public service providers, current, past, and future public service providers wanting to participate in the program, just a little bit of a lot of everything, I should say. We're going to include a lot of direct outreach with emails and really try to do a better job than we even did last time, which was a pretty darn good job, I should say so myself. So that would be the middle part of our efforts. And then last but not least, we gather all that data analysis. We gather all of our public outreach information from our residents, from our stakeholders. We put the plan together. We come to you probably at a study session to give you an update and everything before we come to you then in May for approval of the recommended activities. And here, just people usually ask, what is the CDBG target area? So I just wanted to make sure that you got a visual what the CDBG target area is. And so that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
As always, Cynthia, nicely done. Dude, Jackie.
Thank you, Ms. Lara. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to, in that timeline, because this is such a effective and positive plan, I know there's always a lot of interest from nonprofits and partners to participate. Where is it in this timeline, if I'm not understanding it correctly? Where do they jump in? Where is it that they can submit to participate?
So we will have a NOFA. The NOFA will be launched in November.
Of this year?
Yes.
And then the window for them to participate will be?
Our NOFA process is 30 to 45 days, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Lark, are you saying NOFA?
Notice of funding availability.
Oh, okay.
NOFA, you don't know what a NOFA is?
No.
Come on, NOFA.
She said it like we all knew what it was, and I was like, "What did she just say? NOFA? I didn't understand what a NOFA was." So
NOFA way.
I needed some clarification.
I'll invite you to the next rail or federal meeting. Yeah. I just want to say thank you. It was really cool to see. We really changed how we were doing it and put together a comprehensive plan that could have someone execute over time. And it's just great to see us come to an end, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we go next time. So very nice job. Thank you.
Yeah, how do you do a better job than what you already did? I mean, you did a pretty bang-up job. So how do you top yourself?
I top myself by collaborating with other people that can help me top myself.
And come up with terms
And
like NOFA.
that would be Sean, our communications team. I reached out to him weeks ago and maybe months ago. And we talked about, I kind of led him into this process and he said, oh, I can help, so that's how.
Okay.
See, on Friday when you get paid, you tell your son it's NOFA. It's Notice of Funding Availability.
We're gonna have to put that in the same repertoire as bifurcate.
That's pretty NOFA good. The public hearing is now open. Sylvia, are there any NOFA speakers?
Mayor, we did not receive any speaker cards.
All right, public hearing is now closed. Anybody want to make a NOFA motion?
I'll second.
Sorry, Jack.
It's all right.
You go 4-0 and Steiner's out of the hot box. You missed a riveting conversation, Jim. You're gonna have to go watch it on the repeats. Up next, administrative reports. Number 38, adoption of the City of Corona proposed budget for fiscal year 2025, amendments to the fiscal year 2024 adopted budget, and related contract amendments, change orders, and purchase orders. Julie Kinnicutt, Employee of the Year, Budget Manager, will present this item. Good luck, player.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I have a presentation that we will run through in just a moment. It's a slightly condensed version of what you saw on May 15th at the study session. There have been no changes to the presentation since that workshop on May 15th. In addition to the amounts presented in the presentation, approval of tonight's item will do the following. Adopt the fiscal year 2025 budget and the associated resolutions, including the annual appropriations limit, also known as GAN, and the updated position library. With the approval of the 2025 budget, there are adjustments that were identified after the last budget workshop. Budget adjustments totaling just over $438,000 that includes a decrease for 2 projects in the police department that they ended up doing in the current fiscal year, an increase for LMD 84-2 Zone 20 to correct the budget, funding for the AMI replacement project and some bond funding projects, as well as other contract amendments, change orders, and purchase orders that don't require an additional appropriation. And then as we're winding down fiscal year 2024, there are some adjustments for the current fiscal year as well. Total increases of $125,000 to cover an increase for graffiti abatement and an agreement with road safe traffic systems. And again, some other contract amendments, change orders, and purchase orders, and continuing appropriations that don't require any additional appropriations. And then the budget documents, the proposed budget document and CIP document can be found on our website currently, as well as attached to this agenda item. With that, we will go through the presentation. We're going to go over the 2025 budget overview, and then the enterprise funds, general fund, including Measure X, and then the general fund forecast. Again, these are our strategic goals. They were the building blocks for this year's budget. I just want to reiterate that this is the framework that we did use for the 2025 budget. Here is our fiscal year 2025 budget process. Here we are at the tail end of this graph here, presenting to you tonight the proposed budget, and if adopted, it will go into effect July 1st. Looking at revenue estimates for all of the funds, it is estimated at $454.3 million for next fiscal year. The fiscal year 2025 compared to fiscal year 2024 estimates, it's an increase of $2.8 million or 0.6%. Looking at expenditures, the total is $464.1 million for this next fiscal year. Comparing fiscal year 2025 to the 2024 adopted budget, there's an increase of $16.9 million or 3.8%. Moving on to the proprietary funds. These are programs or activities that are supported by rates and/or fees. They may also include grants or reimbursements from other governmental agencies. We'll start off with the Water Utility Fund. It's estimated at $62.7 million in revenue. Primarily, it comes from utility service charges. Some other items that weigh in on this is fees and permits, investment earnings, and current services. There's a $900,000 increase from the fiscal year 2024 estimate, and then the spike you see in fiscal year 2023 revenues is for that one-time settlement of $19 million. In fiscal year 2025, there's an estimated total of $62.9 million in expenditures. The difference between revenue and expenses of $200,000 will use the existing fund balance, and the decrease in expenditures from fiscal year 24 estimate to fiscal year 2025 is made up of $4.5 million in CIP and $400,000 in those O&M projects. Looking at the Sewer Utility Fund, the revenue is estimated at $34.4 million, with 92.6% of the revenue activity related to utility service charges. Similar to the Water Utility Fund, involved in this is investment earnings, fines, penalties, and forfeitures, current services, and other revenues that contribute to the fund. The combined expenditures total $44.3 million, including $7.6 million in CIP funding, and that again is fully funded now, but most likely won't all be expensed in fiscal year 2025, as these are multi-year projects. For each of the fiscal years that expenses have exceeded revenue, there is sufficient fund balance to cover that difference. Moving on to the general fund. We are taking a look at the top 5 largest revenue categories that are in the general fund. Those top 5 are in that orange box: sales tax, property tax, other taxes, current services, and other revenues. Sales tax is about 44.4% of general fund revenues, and property tax is about 28.9% of the general fund revenues. Those two alone account for 73.3%, and then all of the top 5 make up for 90.4% of the general fund inflows. For next fiscal year, the total inflows, which is a combination of both revenues and transfers in, is estimated to be $226.7 million. That is an increase of $2.1 million or 0.9% when compared to the current fiscal year. And then again, I'm sure your eye is drawn to those fiscal year 2022 actuals, and that spike is due to the pension obligation bonds that we issued. And unfortunately, that will skew the graph until about the 2027 budget process when that year falls off. Looking at a year-over-year comparison, you can see which categories are increasing and decreasing. I won't go over each of the lines, but all of the details are there, and then any of the comments are all the way there on the right. The proposed general fund operating budget is $220.9 million. This represents an increase of $19.1 million or 9.5% when compared to the adopted fiscal year 2024 budget. Here's a different snapshot of the general fund operating budget for fiscal year 2025. This shows expenditures by department and expenditure type. As you can see, personnel is the largest portion of the general fund expenditure budget, and then materials and supplies is the second largest. Down near the bottom right, you will see the breakout of the CIP and the O&M projects as well. I will now pass it over to Ms. Sitton to cover Measure X.
Okay, so this slide here represents the Measure X allocations that we're anticipating to, how we're budgeting the estimated Measure X money for fiscal year 2025. You can see a total of $37.6 million in funding and $6.3 million going into reserves. The two largest allocation categories are public safety and parks and recreation. Of the $6.3 million in reserves, 2.3 is in parks and recreation in preparation for City Park and other parks and trails projects that are included in the budget, or actually projected in the future. So this is just a different snapshot of that, the funding plan, and you can see that we have one-time funding of about 23%, recurring funding of 62%, and then reserves of the $6.3 million, that totals about 14% of the funding for next fiscal year. Then looking at the general fund forecast, the box in red, it shows the proposed fiscal year 2025 numbers. You can see that it's starting in fiscal year 2026, there's some items that are like shaded in blue or kind of a bluish gray. And that's some proposed funding for the downtown revitalization plan that we've gotten direction to move forward on. So that's the new bond issuance and proposed City Park operating costs. So those are projected out in the future, but not included in the fiscal year 2025 budget because it's wouldn't happen until the future years.
Ms. Sitton, before you go to the next slide, proposed 2025 budget revenue, $225 million, 2026, $230 million. Is there a reason there's a $5 million difference there, why it's $5 million more, or something magical happening?
So there's just, we look at all the different categories. We look at where we be increasing in property taxes, sales tax. We look at all the categories when we're looking at projections and how revenues are trending in the future years, or in the historical years, sorry, to put some inflators in for the future years.
Okay, because I saw it's 2 million from 24 to 25, and then we got 5, and then 5, 5.5, and then 6. And so I just didn't know if that was just a,
So our estimates when
yeah,
we look,
11.
yeah, our estimates when we're looking like 1 year out or so are a lot
More conservative?
well, it's a little bit, we have better information, like 1 year looking out or even 2 years versus looking at 3 or 4 years out. So that's one of the reasons. And you'll see lots of increases and decreases in the overall categories.
Okay, and that includes, those revenues are Measure X as well, correct? So,
Correct. So this is the general fund type, which includes the regular general fund, Measure X, as well as the Historic Civic Center. And we'd be happy to get you the details on exactly what's changing from 25 to 26. If you're
that's fine, I can find it. I just it stuck out to me right now. Thank you.
So it's information that it's just more in the background because we haven't gotten to fiscal year 26 yet. So that's, but we can definitely
Yeah, I'm just
provide that
curious, just
information.
because we're pretty tight for this fiscal year, and then we're showing these gross, but at the same time, we're also showing a lot of indebtedness. And I know we haven't heard what our CalPERS number is going to be. I know we still, when's that come out, in July?
Usually late July, early August is when we get that information.
Yeah, so we saw an $81 million jump. I'm curious about what it's going to do this year.
Right. Me as well. Thank you.
Okay, so just going back to an overview summary and to close out the presentation, this slide provides the total breakdown of the revenue estimates of $454.3 million for fiscal year 2025. And this slide represents the expenditure budget at $464.1 million.
Real quick, before we move on, those totals, the expenditures exceed the revenues by about 10 million?
Correct.
Okay, so we're running a deficit budget.
Yes, and a lot of things go into that. So if you'll remember, all the CIP projects are fully funded, but won't necessarily be expensed in that current fiscal year. And then any funds that the expenditures do exceed the revenues, there is sufficient fund balance to cover those.
Okay.
So what's next? Tonight, you have seen the proposed budget. It is up for adoption. And then the fiscal year will begin in July 1st for fiscal year 2025. And then before I take any questions, I just want to thank all of the departments for their participation and their help in building this budget. I really appreciate it. And with that, I will answer any questions.
All right, Tony, Wes, Jackie, Jim.
It's funny, you guys probably spent, I mean, I know you've spent months on this and to be boiled down into, what, about 6 minutes? Nice job.
Why she's an employee of you?
That's true. Well, I mean, not by herself.
Okay, Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
All right, is there a motion? Is there a second? I'll second. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, Wes is a no. All right, Wes, you're such a rebel. Number 39, request by Councilmember Speak, the rebel, for the City Council to consider an amendment to the city's Historic Resources Ordinance in Chapter 17.63 of the Corona Municipal Code to have the demolition of the historic structures listed on the Heritage Inventory to be reviewed and considered by the city's proposed Historic Preservation Board instead of the Planning and Development Director. Joanne Coletta, Planning and Development Director, will present this item. Good luck, Joanne.
Thank you. And as you indicated, this is a request this evening to have the City Council discuss whether to do an amendment to our Historic Resources Ordinance to where we would have demolition requests for structures that are listed on our Corona Heritage Inventory to be considered by our proposed Historic Preservation Board instead of the Planning and Development Director. So really the ask this evening is for the council to provide direction to staff as to whether you would like us to move forward with this amendment in order to change our demolition review process. Just a real quick overview for the council. We have different classification of historic structures here in the city. We have the Corona Heritage Inventory. Then we have our Corona landmarks, which are on our Corona Register. Then you have our Corona Historic District, and then you have historical resources on the state and national register. So when it comes to demolition request, our ordinance currently identifies who gets to be the decision body on certain reviews. When it comes to the demolition of a heritage property, that decision is decided by the Planning and Development Director. And just a reminder for you all, a property on the Heritage Inventory means that it's eligible to be listed as a Corona landmark, but it has not been approved as one. So we do have an inventory list that people can look at and see as whether they want to nominate a property to be a landmark. A property that is a local landmark, if there is a demolition request, that is actually reviewed by our Planning Commission. And then if you have a local landmark that is both listed on our Corona Register as well as the state or national register, that is decided by the City Council, but there is a recommendation to the council from the Planning Commission. I have provided these findings to you before. In our municipal code, there is a list of findings that have to be made before a demolition request is approved. and only one of the 5 findings needs to be made. That information was provided to you in your staff report, so I've once again provided it to you here just for reference purposes. And just a reminder to you, we did have a study session several months back where we were looking at amendments to our historic resources ordinance. And from that meeting, staff was given direction on how to proceed, but there was no discussion on changing of the demolition process. So we do have an amendment forthcoming. So this is a good time to talk about this, is whether or not we would pursue that direction in an upcoming amendment. So once again, we are just here to receive direction from you, and I'll turn the floor over to the council. Thank you.
Wes, do you want to speak first?
I just wanted to just clean it up. I missed it the first time. I should have brought it up. The only reason I thought about it is that we're going so far to initiate a historic commission. This is something they should do. That's it, pretty simple.
Tony?
Ms. Coletta, could you go back a couple of slides that listed the, this one right here? So when it's designated a local landmark, is that like a house that maybe is on the Mills Act?
Yes, landmarks are the ones that are eligible for the Mills Act.
Okay, so if somebody has a house on the local landmark, they are eligible. They could be participating with the Mills Act, which is a tax break for them. So it's a little bit.
It's 2 different distinguishments. So the Mills, it's landmark status, and then once you get landmark status, you're eligible to get Mills Act.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly, because if they are landmark and they do go for the Mills Act, there's some sort of financial benefit
Correct.
to the homeowner to maintain that house, and obviously there's a benefit to the city that you know is able to have a house that is saved, because if it's on the Mills Act, then can you come off of the Mills Act?
Yeah, you could, either the homeowner can say, I want to be removed from the Mills Act, would be very, very foolish, or the city could say, hey, you're not taking care of your house, we're taking you off the Mills Act.
I mean, we've had people come off of both Mills Act and the Heritage Property List.
Okay. And currently, we have, just so I could make sure that I understand this correctly, we have criteria that somebody that decides that they want to seek demolition of their property, if it's a heritage property. We actually have criteria for all of the different designations, that if the homeowner or the owner of the building wants to seek that, they have criteria with which to go through. For me, the challenge with something like this is, instead of it being very clinical, where we have criteria that we've listed and it either meets the criteria or it doesn't, which doesn't leave room for ambiguity, something like this leaves us into the hands of people that are biased, because it is a historical resource board, and these are people that are biased towards history. And if I, as a homeowner, decide that my home is, that is designated, that isn't designated on any type of national or city or county, or state registry, decide that I want to demo that home, it's my home, and I don't really want anybody to tell me that I can't do it if I meet the criteria. If I meet the criteria, it's a very clinical yes or no. But if I leave it up to a historical resource board that we haven't even appointed yet, so we don't even know the people that are going to be on there, but I'm guessing that they're all going to be lovers of history, and therefore they will be biased, which doesn't leave for an unbiased opinion. It leaves for, I don't even think that it leads for an educated opinion, because the people that are on there aren't educated historians that we know of as of right now. They could just be lovers of history, which doesn't mean that they're educated in history. So to me, this leads us open for conflict and possible legal challenges, because we're telling a private homeowner what they can and can't do with their own property if they've met criteria that we have established. If the criteria was bad, then our option are to make sure that the criteria is good and fair and just, which I think that it is. but to leave a historical decision that of a private owner's home in the hands of people that are biased is probably, I'm not a lawyer, but is probably strife with legal challenges. And I would ask our resident lawyer for some legal advice in something like this.
I think from a legal perspective, if we have standards established in our ordinance, it's just a matter of who's going to apply those standards. I can't say right now, again, not even having a board who will be on the board, that they would automatically be biased. I think they would be interested, but I'm not sure we can say at this point that they will be biased. That would be something that would have to be established on a case-by-case basis.
I guess the question is, though, that if there is clear criteria and a historic commission says, we don't want it to be demolished,
I can answer it.
then they have not done their job. And would that then be a legal challenge?
Can I be the resident lawyer?
No.
I know the answer to this, and Joanne can help me.
Well, I actually.
Oh, go ahead.
No
Be the
offense, Mayor,
lawyer.
but I do want to hear from
Very offended.
from our lawyer on this.
I think that's exactly what I'm saying, on a case-by-case basis, right? We would have to look at it, at who's making that decision, what are their findings, are they not following the standards?
Yeah, please. Thank you. Now that
Okay.
I've got the official, please.
Yeah, I can do this, Jamie. You watch. So, Joanne, if to help answer Tony's question, let's just say a homeowner's on the Mills Act and on the register. They can ask to have their property taken off those lists, right?
Yeah, yes, there is a deletion process to get deleted from being a landmark and from being on the heritage inventory.
And that would go through the planning commission, correct? Yeah, so even if it went through the historic board and the historic board said, hey, dudes, you can't demolish your house, right? Then they would have a process of taking their names off of that list to get to
But we're
that
talking about a heritage house.
It doesn't
Not
matter.
on the inventory.
It is on the inventory.
Well, no, but it's not on any type of inventory that they're getting a tax benefit from.
But
not a
even still,
landmark.
they could have their name taken off of that list. And it's been done like 2-3 years ago. There was a house on 10th Street that I believe did that. The commissioners in the house.
There's one on Bell, there was one, there's been a bunch.
Yeah, so, Jackie, did you have anything?
Skipped Wes. Or no, you didn't. Wes started. Sorry. So I think this kind of picks up from the conversation that we had about creating the board, and you know where I landed on that. But per your request to have this, this does seem like something that would be under the purview of the Historic Preservation Board once created. The rub is going to be, because you see this in other commissions and committees in other cities, we haven't had it as much in ours, is when a commission needs to consider, the specific steps by which, something is allowed, and then if that is contrary to what they really want. So what has happened in other cities that I've seen is that a commission will flagrantly disregard the rules and say, and vote how they feel the laws and the rules should be, which can be in conflict with the rules that we have set. So that's going to be interesting, because here we have 5 rules by which a demolition can be granted. And so it's going to be interesting when the board has to consider the demolition, if they have to consider the demolition of a building that meets one of those criteria that they really don't want to allow for a demolition. Do you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so you know how I feel about the board, the creation of the board, because I voted that way. But separate and apart from that, an issue like this would fall, in my opinion, under the purview of the Historic Preservation Board. So I am in favor of that. Thank you.
I'm also willing to let the Historic Commission have first crack at it.
I feel the same, and I want to explain why. If just to take the depot for example, it got a lot of public recognition because it's come before this council. But had the owner of the depot stayed quiet and flew under a radar, she could have gone down to Building Hall, applied for a demo permit. The building could have been knocked down, and we would have not known about it until after tractors did their thing. So for this to go through and for demolition to be viewed as public, for there to be discussion about it, for citizens to chime in, for there to be public outrage or public support, it's all doing it in the open, and I stand behind that and feel that's the right thing to do, and that's why I'm for it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, and so it would be done in the public and out in the open, but it would still, under our rules, be allowed to be done. If they met one of the criteria.
Yeah, I mean, there's rules. I just like that it's public, it's made public, like people are seeing it, it's
Agreed.
transparent.
Agreed.
A private owner should never be dragged through the public court of opinion to do what they want with their property. I hope that somebody sues the shit out of us for this. And I hope that we lose, because this is the wrong side. I never want to tell a private owner what they can and can't do with their property and drag them through a public court of appeal. That's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. I'm morally opposed to that. That's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So moved.
Well, we have to do public comments.
I thought that.
It's okay. Tony has an opinion and he's voiced it, and I respect it. With that, Sylvia, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card for this item.
Joe?
Joe Morgan, 2063 Red. It's wild to hear that argument. Like, you do this every day. You make decisions about people's property, people's income every single day. And so if you want to take everything out of the public eye and take everything away from any judicial board or any deciding board, any governing board, why are you here? And to pretend that you're the only pious one here, when I hear plenty of bias about you, you're like, no, there should be no rules. No property owner should have any rules that apply to them. You don't call that a bias? You think you're somehow more righteous than Richard or Wes or Tom? Come on, give me a break. You know, this is where this thing should be decided. They should be decided by people who are interested and knowledgeable about the subject. That's who should be deciding it. There's cures. There's legal cures. There's plenty of steps. There's plenty of taking the city to court is one of the cures. If you don't like the decision, you're free to go to court. And you're free to pay the price for it too. You're gonna have to pay. Maybe you pay something. Maybe we pay something. But there's a process. But it certainly shouldn't be everything in the back room, everything, you know. And it's paying a disservice to say that, well, all they had to do is march down to development and they're going to get the permit. That's doing a disservice to development, because they got rules to follow, and to act like, well, you just go in the back and just fill out the forms and you get the demo. That's not necessarily true either, because I heard those guidelines and I don't really think that any of those things really apply to the depot. So, you know, this should be handled in public. Items of significance, they're not buying this not knowing what they're buying. Just like the people who bought it before. They knew they were buying a heritage property. They knew they were buying the depot. If you bought the Statue of Liberty, you kind of know it's the Statue of Liberty. You know, so, you know, Crimea River, if they're going to have to go through some difficulties, if Crimea River, if they're going to get drugged through the mud because they're tearing down a landmark, I could give a shit about that. I want to go buy a couple doors right now. I'm struggling because I've liked Ganal in the past. and to see them just walk on our heritage like this because they need a little bit of extra space, I don't think I'm gonna. You know, it's like a slap in the face that they give this little bit of a crap about Corona. So, you know, I'm fine with it being handled by a board. Even some people that are interested, even some people with maybe partially the amount of bias that you have about this. Thank you very much.
Mayor, before we continue, I need to ask the lawyer a question. Ms. Raymond, does this apply to the Ganal situation since we don't have a board in place? And that would constitute financial harm for them if they have to wait for this board to appear?
So currently, the ordinance or the municipal code vests the director with that authority. And until we revise that ordinance, which I think what Ms. Coletta was indicating is we would include this, if that was the council's direction, we would include this in the ordinance that we're creating to establish that board. So until that time, it would remain with the director, that decision.
What is the timeline of that ordinance? The amendment to that ordinance?
We're looking to bring it here in the summer. We've been working on it, and this was one of the last components, so we wanted to get this fixed and not come back with multiple amendments if that was the direction. So we're working to get that done in the next 2 months.
Tony, do you have other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions, comments? Wes, you make the motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll second. Okay, 4-1. We're just going to follow history with history, aren't we? Number 44, Heritage Room Improvement Project. Moses Cortez, Tree Warden, Facilities, Parks, and Trails Manager will present this item. Good luck, Moses.
Good evening, Council. I have a quick little presentation for you on an item that we had brought to you guys prior on when we awarded the contract for the Heritage Room improvements. And one of the items that was brought up was looking at the potential for light upgrades and what that cost would look like, as well as an ROI. So I'm going to go through that with you guys, and then afterwards we'll be happy to answer any questions. So the ask is that the City Council provide direction on the potential LED lighting upgrades for the Heritage Room, since we are currently under construction. A little bit of background on the project. The City Council awarded construction of the Heritage Room January 3rd of 2024 in the amount of $342,392. The council then asked us if we could come back with a presentation on what the lighting cost would look like, as well as a ROI on that if we went ahead and changed out the existing fixtures to LED. Staff committed to researching this information out, working with our general contractor and his subs, and return to council with this update. So we have a little table here just so you can kind of do some comparisons on the costs and the pros and cons of the project, of the option. So option one is if we stay with the traditional fluorescent 2x4 fixtures that are currently in the Heritage Room. The capital cost, there are none, so there's no cost to leaving them in place. Our current operational cost for electricity is right around $3,800 annually. There is no return on investment since we will just be leaving them in place. Pros is, again, there's no cost to it. However, the cons is that we do use more electricity. We have higher operating costs. They do require replacement on a more frequent basis. If you guys are familiar with the LED or the fluorescent tubes that are in those fixtures, and they may cause light damage to some of the collection that will be on display in the Heritage Room. Option two is if we go and switch out the LED fixtures. There are 63 of them in that Heritage Room, so it'd be changing out the 63 fixtures with an LED retrofit unit that would go right into that 2x4 fixture. The cost would be $44,863 for materials and installation for our general contractor to get those fixtures installed. Our operational costs drop to $835 annually, which brings our ROI to right around 14 to 15 years. We do use about 80% electricity. We have lower operating costs, lower maintenance, a much longer life expectancy on those fixtures, so we don't have to change them out. They are definitely a lot more durable and don't have to worry about the fixtures popping. They do generate less heat, which will help keep the building. And with that, that is the presentation. Gave you the couple options there for you guys to discuss and talk about, and be more than happy to answer any questions.
Tony, lover of history that you are, did you want to go first?
Yeah, why didn't we plan for LEDs in the beginning?
So that was never called, so the project didn't call out for the change out of the fixtures themselves. It just called for the demolition of the walls and opening up the floor space to get that square footage. The fixtures were not included in that, and then it was after the fact that was brought up, so that's why we brought it back.
Okay. Does that include, and I would imagine that when you have displays, like they need to be lit properly. So is this just taking the existing fixtures like one for one, like they're just taking the bulbs out and putting LED bulbs, or are they gonna be able to move fixtures so that they could spotlight different things?
So the grid's laid out already. We do have the whips that are in the ceiling, we have a little bit of wiggle room if we need to move them slightly by like one ceiling tile to the other.
Right.
But when we lay out the cases, we'll try and keep them under the lights. So it will be swapping out. So we change out the driver and all that, and the ballast. You don't need a ballast anymore. So all of a sudden, it's a retro kit that they sell for those 2x4 fixtures.
Okay. I have no other questions.
As Councilmember Casillas always says, I actually used to do this. I used to switch out back when they were doing switches. My brother got hired, and we would do whole office buildings at night, go in and be on ladders and cut stuff and replace them. I mean, A, it's a cost savings. B, it's going to be 15 years. But the most important thing is the light damage part. Why gamble? So I'm in favor of option one.
Jackie?
Two. I apologize.
Got really confused.
I took my glasses off. There you go.
Yeah, I'm in favor of option 2, but Mr. Mayor, were you going to pay for this, I thought you said? I'm just sorry. I'm going to hold him accountable to what he said last time.
All right,
Did you have
Jack.
something to say about this option? Because we went back to look at it because you suggested we did.
I do. I was waiting for you guys to do it before you hit me up with the bill. But go ahead, Jack. Are you done?
No. I'm done, and I'm not trying.
Busting my balls.
I'm not trying to, but you did say it, so I remembered it, and I wanted to see if that was still something that you were considering.
No, I'm not. I just bought another house, and the other ball busters got me spending money on that. So.
Well, regardless, I think this is a valuable investment. I think sure, the ROI, 15 years, the annual cost, but I'm just thinking about the damage to the collection and the fact that just changing our light fixtures could lessen the damage on the collection is a good thing. So I think that's a small price to pay. So I'm for option 2.
Thank you.
I'm good with option 2.
Okay. Every great once in a while I misspeak, and it's twice in 2 months. I did run some numbers. Moses, don't get offended at me. The retrofit kits, you can get rid of those. They're not worth the money. They take twice the labor and twice the cost to do a retrofit kit. You're better off to do new LED fixtures. And so in speaking with Justin, he gave me the quantities a little earlier today. And I priced it out to swap out one for one, just like the same pattern that it is right now, with 53 regular 2x4s and 10 emergency 2x4s, because I'm assuming some of them are EMs. It's not generator backup over there, right? No. To recycle the bulbs and to demo the old fixtures. If my company was to go in there, which is not a prevailing wage company, it would be $23,297. To have a union company or a prevailing wage company go in there, it would be $31,487. So your price of $44,863, you need to take it out of that general contractor's hands and either put it in a contract directly with an electrician. Yeah. We're gonna solve this tonight. So either contract directly with an electrician or have staff change them out because it is common for building engineers to change out light fixtures. So with that, Jacob, can we get better pricing?
I believe you were outvoted, Mayor. They already approved option 2.
Can we still get better pricing?
Of course, I'm teasing right now, but if you wanted to get some different direction, so far the direction is option 2, but if council wants to do something differently, we could spend more time on it.
Yeah, I think we could save $15,000.
Well, I think the question is, what would have to happen in order to do that? And it sounds like we would have to re-procure, which would probably cost more than 10 grand.
It's just the process of bidding and
Procurement
purchasing
might-
from.
might
this-
drag out.
Yeah, from a government's perspective. So I'd like to hear if it's even possible.
And the time it would
And the
take.
time that we'd have to invest to put this back out there.
Well, from my understanding, they just asked the general contractor for a price. They didn't do a procurement.
Yeah, we'd have to do
They-
it.
Can you help me out here?
So it's a public, it presents some challenges for us because it's a public project and you have to look at the total value of the project when you're doing a bid like this. So to just siphon off one part of it, it could definitely pose some challenges for us. So we could look at it, but I'm not sure that we could do actually.
Can you ask them to rebid it with not using retrofit kits and to use use new light fixtures?
If the council wants us to do that, we can.
Yeah, we can negotiate.
Okay, and I'll send you the light spec, the price off of.
There you go.
Okay. And we'll look for your check, Mayor. Thank you.
And I'm in favor of Tom's recommendation and staff's efforts to get that price reduced. Thank you.
All right,
I don't think it would hurt for Mr. Cortez to mention that the mayor is also an electrician and an electrical company owner and knows certain things that perhaps would be beneficial in negotiating the price. Just saying.
I'm willing to help.
No.
So we
No
need
help
to
from the
vote.
mayor, other than Mr. Cortez saying the mayor is also an electrician.
We need to vote,
And knows.
I think.
Okay, well, can we do public
We're
comments?
getting more in trouble.
Sylvia, are there any speaker cards?
Yes, we have one speaker card for this item.
Joe?
I wanted to pitch in. I'll pitch in. Want to help? We could do it. We could knock it out on a Saturday, you and me. We can get it done. So, I mean, how does that work out legally? If you had volunteer labor, I'll even buy one of the fixtures.
A good electrician can do nine 2x4s in a day. So we'll be there for a couple months. You and I.
Two in a day. Well, we got two of us, so that's close to 20 in a day. So we can do it over a long weekend.
All right.
So, all right. So yeah, you should do this. It seems like it's just the biggest no-brainer in the history of no-brainers. Thank you.
Moses, I'm sorry if I offended you, but this is my world and I was
Nope.
going to price it out no matter what.
No offense taken, that's easy. So yeah, I don't mind going back to them negotiating, and if you want to send us this, the fixture that you proposed, and let us know, and we'll go back to them.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Moses.
Thank you.
We don't need to vote on that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I would like to make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, 5-0. Number 41, fiscal year 2025 community-based grant program funding recommendations. Andrew, is Andrew here? Amina, are you?
Mayor, I do need to recuse myself from this item too because of my affiliation with the Peppermint Ridge Board.
And
All right.
I'll be joining the vice mayor in the penalty box because
Can you hear me? Okay. So I am pinch hitting for Mr. Kim tonight. He is not with us. His wife just had their first child, so he is home with his new family. So we wish him well.
Boy or girl?
Girl.
All right. Congratulations if you're watching, Mr. Kim, and you probably are because that baby ain't sleeping. DK, go ahead and give the report.
Thank you. So I'm really happy to be here tonight to present the funding recommendations for year 3, the final year of our community-based organization grant program. And our ask of the council tonight is that the city council review and approve the CBO funding recommendations for fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $152,289. So I just want to start by giving a little bit of background about the CBO program. As the council may remember, back in November of 2021, the council allocated $500,000 in ARPA funding to support a new nonprofit grant program. The purpose of the program was to provide funding to local nonprofits in the community that fund programs that are aligned with our city's strategic plan and are programs that are not directly provided by the city. In February of 2022, the reimbursable program funds were disseminated over a 3-year period, and the recommendation was that we allocate just over $166,000 for 3 years for fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2025. The minimum funding amount for the award was designated at $2,500, and the maximum award amount was designated at $25,000. So for fiscal year 2023, we had 23 organizations apply for the CBO program. Out of those 23, 18 were designated as eligible for the program and were awarded funding. The amount for that year that was allocated exceeded the $166,000 amount because an additional $37,800 was allocated to the Corona Norco Settlement House. And during that year, all of the funds were awarded except for $4,000, which was not submitted for reimbursement. And then moving on to our current year, fiscal year 2024, we had 30 organizations apply, 27 were deemed eligible, and the total award amount was $166,677. We are on track again to disseminate all of that funding, except for there's going to be another $4,000 award that has not been submitted. So for fiscal year 2025, we started outreach for this final year of the funding cycle on March 12th of 2024. We conducted outreach by disseminating notices to all of our local nonprofits. We posted information on our social media channels, and we had a city webpage dedicated to the program as well. The funding application period went through April 25th, so we had it open for just over a month and a half. And during that time, we received 25 applications that were submitted. Can you hear me? Okay. So all of the 25 applicants were deemed eligible based off of our criteria. And out of those 25, 22 of them were recurring organizations that had received funding in previous cycles, either fiscal year 23 or fiscal year 24. And 3 of the organizations were new. The services offered varied in purpose and scope, and we only had $152,289 available in funding, and the amount that was requested exceeded that by quite a bit. It was $517,400 that was requested. So based off of that, we went through, reviewed the evaluation criteria based off of the organizations and the number of residents that they served, how their program aligned with our City of Corona strategic plan, and determined if the program fit within the needs of the community. The programs that were submitted vary in scope. They support arts and music, critical social services, food pantries, as well as some miscellaneous activities that benefit veterans, health and wellness, reservations and restorations of community spaces, and some additional programs beyond that. So in order to help ensure that we are able to extend our CBO funds to the greatest reach and number of organizations possible, the recommendation, because the request exceeded the amount that we had available, the recommendation is that the 3 new organizations that applied that had not received prior funding received a greater allocation. So staff is recommending that those 3 organizations, which are the Bass Education, Inc., the Corona High School Cheerleading Squad, and the Crossroads Christian Church Project Hope. Those organizations are recommended to receive 50% of their ask or 50% of the max award amount, which the max award amount again is $25,000. And then the remaining organizations that have received funding in previous fiscal years are recommended to allocate the remainder of the amount that's available, and that equates to about 30% of their ask.
Real quick, the cheerleading squad is a nonprofit organization?
It is, yes. And they are asking for funding to replace some of their equipment that was damaged. So their ask is going to help fund that equipment replacement.
So on this number 13, Crossroads Christian and Bass Education, those are both based out of for-profit entities, are they not?
During the review process, it was found that they were eligible nonprofits.
They had established nonprofit organizations?
That's my understanding, yes. So based on the recommendations, staff is recommending that the allocation recommendations be approved for the new organizations to receive 50% of their ask, and then the remaining to be distributed as a 30% of the ask for the other 22 organizations. That will put us at, when you combine all of the asks and funding received for the organizations that submitted for this year, at $457,000, and then when you factor in the organizations that have received funding in prior years, which is $42,994, it will put us at the full $500,000 ask.
Can I see 1 through 13 really quick?
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Do they have to spend the money?
Yes, it's a reimbursable grant. So they have to spend the money first and then show proof of receipt, and then we reimburse them for their expenditures.
Does it matter if an organization has a large sum of money already that they very rarely spend?
That is not taken into account during the review period.
Okay.
So with that, our ask again of the City Council is that you review and approve the CBO funding recommendations for fiscal year 25 in the amount of $152,289. And if you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer.
It's interesting because, and I don't want to like on the fly review, it just, staff reviewed them all under the same criteria. It's just surprising some of the applicants on the list. But I don't want to treat anyone differently. If the process is the process and everyone made it through, then I understand.
Yeah, I have some reservations, but particularly one organization, but I'll let it be. Thank you. Tony?
I guess I'm in the same boat. I mean, I have some reservations about some of the asks here, and I know that staff reviewed them, but it just seems to me like I'm not 100% certain about what they're going to do with the money, and so I don't know. I guess that's my concern. I mean, I don't know, since 2 of the members can't vote. I don't know what is required. Does this have to be 3 people that pass? 3 yes votes?
Yeah, just majority.
I think I'm going to vote for it, but I'm really, especially tonight, not too happy with the behavior of one of the organizations that's here in the audience and his comments, but I'll let it go.
Well,
Yeah, I can't retroactively apply, a different level of scrutiny. So I will make the motion to move forward with the staff's recommendation as presented.
I'll second. Oh, were we supposed to do speaker cards? Sylvia, were there any speaker cards? I apologize.
I apologize too. Yes, wait. No, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
All right. We're avoided that water balloon over my head, didn't I? Did it pass?
Mayor,
Okay.
sorry, the item did pass. It was 3-2.
Okay.
It was 2-1? Sorry.
Where did you vote?
I was yes.
Where did you vote? Oh, then it didn't pass. I voted yes. 2-1. Oh, I'm sorry. Majority of the three of us.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, you can let them in. I was confused whether or not that required a majority of the body, if it required 3 votes, or just majority of the 3 that were sitting. Okay, got it. So it was a 2-1, therefore it was a majority.
Okay, number 42, Mayor Richens, myself, I'm not paying for this. Request for the council to consider sending a comment letter to state and local leaders addressing the state's preemption of local housing control. Mayor Richens will provide the comments, and here are my comments. Last month, I'm just reading this. I'm doing the Lord's work up here. All right, last month, I was recused from voting on a housing development where a predatory contractor came into our city and decided to just build a ton of obnoxious housing, and he had the law on his side. And because he had the law from state legislatures, not this city, he beat us. He beat up our council. And he beat up our city. And our state legislators stay silent on this. And even worse is, what's that organization I don't like too much? Cal Cities. I don't know if they're an organization that represents cities anymore, or if they're just an organization that represents the Democrat Party. So I would like to propose a letter be sent from our city to all the other cities in the state saying how we disapprove of local control being wrestled away from us. And I'm hoping to have that same letter sent to the press enterprise. And so with that, I'm hoping the council will vote to go in that direction. And if not, then not. Those are my comments.
Mayor, did you say we were going to send it to other cities or our state legislators?
State legislators, every city in the state, and the local news agencies. And the reason is I feel like other cities are frustrated, just like we're frustrated, but they need to know that we're frustrated. They need to know what our pain is, and quite honestly, we probably need to know what their pain is. And as it stands now, the legislators are not on our side. Our state legislators want to wrestle control away from us. They're not on our side. In fact, it was one of our local legislators that proposed the amendment or the bill. So I don't know any other way to fight it than to reach out to other cities and reach out to the media.
Mayor, can I make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
So the purpose of this item in the next 3 is really just to receive direction from council. If you'd like staff to prepare a letter, we would bring that back to the council to take a look at, and then you could have a substantive conversation about it further. We really just want to know if this is something you'd like us to spend time on. And that applies for the next 2 items as well.
So that's my request. Do you guys have any comments?
You know what, Tom? It was a really crappy position to be put in because the law was on their side, and I certainly don't like that. And as a organization that advocates for the cities, I would agree. I don't know if Cal Cities did a great job. I'm willing to go on the ride with you, but I don't want to necessarily put a spotlight on ourselves. So how do we craft this letter that is basically saying what happened to us? If this is something that has happened to you, you need to let your local electeds and state electeds know about it as well. And I don't think that there's any harm in asking for other communities that have experienced similar things and feel similarly to reach out to their state officials as well. So I'll second it, or I'll go along with it.
Wesley?
There's a couple of local groups that there's calls on Sundays with probably about 100 cities that are usually on it. I think it's called California Association of Elected Officials, and they meet usually every other Sunday or so. And local control is one of the big comments, and the big push is to support an amendment that would challenge local control at the state level. Whether or not a letter would prompt any more, I don't know. And I think if the direction is to draft a letter for us to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just at this
Sure.
point.
I mean, what's in the letter, that's all things that we're going to, I guess, talk about at some other point. But I would say, and I think I'm probably going to steal a little bit of Councilmember Casillas' thunder, that, we concentrate on what we can control and in what we have purview over. And I think it's totally fine for us to talk to our legislators. In fact, we talk to them at least once a year and sometimes more to, get our point across for different things. And local control has been in our letters to our legislators every year.
But it doesn't get better, Wes. You have this assembly member, Wiener, who's a wiener, that goes around every year to think up new crap to impose. Like, he doesn't say, hey, I've done enough.
I
He
agree.
says, this is what we're passing this year, and then next year I'll find some more incredible nonsense.
And he continues to get reelected by his constituents.
Right, but he represents San Francisco area. They're a horrible, horrible city. Like, you can't drive through that city without coming back with no windows.
What I'm saying is that
We need to speak up.
the city of Corona isn't going to affect whether or not Senator Wiener is reelected or not. Or what he
It's not a
proposes.
matter of reelected. It's just he pushes an agenda. He gets the whole party behind him, and then we're forced. We're forced. We've lost power and control of our own city because of his efforts.
Yeah, I'm interested in talking about the issue more and what we can do. I just don't know if I think a letter is going to do anything more than just be filed away.
It may be, but if you say nothing and do nothing,
No,
then
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying like we can try and find some other avenues for us to pitch, but I'm not convinced that if we fire off a letter and it goes to the press enterprise or whoever else that it's gonna help our situation. I agree with you 100%. I think what happened is horrible. I think the stripping away of local control, I've been saying it for 5 years, ever since I've been sitting here, that it's the biggest threat that we have to what we do. But I want to make sure it's constructive and that it's a way to go forward. And maybe there's some other things. I just don't know if crafting and firing off a letter is going to move the needle for us.
Jackie.
Yeah, so I think, we all disliked what occurred, and I think we have varying I think we vary in how we think, certain organizations work or don't work. Like Councilmember Daddario, I'm willing to go down this road because it's a passion project of yours, and it's clearly something that you think is, is worthwhile. I want to be mindful, though, of what the true cost is. And in the staff reports, it lays out, in order to do this thing, what we're asking is staff time. And so staff time used on this means that it's not staff time used on whatever else we have staff, as a priority. So I think we just have to be mindful because, I'm not trying to be cynical. I still believe that one person can make a difference, that, little Corona can make a difference. So I'm willing to go down this route, but I can, just because, all right, let me. From a neighboring city on a subject, like how seriously would you consider it as a council member of the city of Corona? Would you make an agenda item? Would it provoke you to action? I think that, and to what action, is it a smart and good use of our people power?
It may not be, it may be. I get an email like you guys get every year inviting to the Chino Mayor's Christmas party, and I never go, but I read the email and I recognize it. And I actually think this is kind of out of the box. I don't think cities are accustomed to sending letters to other cities. So I think there will be a little bit of shock value, and I think there will be a little bit of education to it.
Okay. And you feel strongly enough, and it's not such a huge commitment that I'm willing to support it.
And you guys can approve the letter and review it, and I'll stay quiet, somewhat. Jim?
Well, I think your request clearly aligns with our legislative platform. So I'm fine with it. I think we would probably get more bang for our buck, really putting pressure on our 4 legislators that represent our area, the 2 senators and the 2 assembly people, and ask them straight up if they will sponsor a bill that reduces some of this stuff and winds it back. I think that's going to be way more powerful than just sending letters to the citizens. But if you want to do that and what I'm suggesting,
I'm completely on board with what you're suggesting. And
we just got to have an ask of our legislators. This is what we're asking of you. This is important to us. You represent us.
Mr. Ellis, in partnership with our consultants that help us with our state lobbying efforts and our federal lobbying efforts, I think we're kind of getting to the point now where we're getting comfortable with not just our annual lobbying efforts, but we're starting to brainstorm some ways to get them to co-sign on some legislation. Maybe this is something that we can have them propose some options for us.
Absolutely, we could bring those options back.
I don't want them to be the driver, because the legislators know the lobbyists, they've heard the opinions, they brush them off. I want it to be unique.
I think if I understood the suggestion, it was more so get their advice on how we best approach this with some strategic approaches, not to let them run with it themselves. I don't think it was.
No, but to Councilmember Steiner's point about having some legislation co-signed, they could help us with crafting and finding ways to get them to co-sign on legislation. Usually it's like here's some proposed wording, this is what we've seen work. Do you want to champion this? You always have a final say.
No, I'm with you. I'm with Jackie.
I'm with Tom.
Should sing a duet. Do we need?
I think that's the direction that we needed. Thank you.
Do we need public comments? Is this a public commenter?
Mayor, we do have one speaker card for this item.
Okay. Dale. Thought it was going to be Joe.
There's over 1,000 cities in California. Some of them have 4 or 5 people. There's probably 600 cities that have 10,000 or more. Corona is the 33rd largest city in the state of California. Huntington Beach has pushed back. Have they had success? I don't know. But you need to get more cities to push back. I think everybody's afraid to push back at the city level, at the state level, and work with other cities because they've seen what happened. If every city is cowardly and keeps their head in their turtle shell, nothing's going to change. Use the leverage of being the 33rd city and start communicating with the other cities. And through time and effort, maybe that'll grow into something, but something needs to change. It can't keep going like it is today. Part of the reason the community in our area, in Coronita, compromised to allow this construction is they're scared to death of what the state's going to do. We didn't want 3 or 4-story buildings in our backyard. Who stood up for us? Nobody. You guys have, but I mean, nobody at the state. We can't fight the state. But if you guys don't start working with the other cities, other than these, well, the organizations you mentioned earlier, I won't even say it again, but use some of your weight and push back. I realize you don't want to expose yourself to liability and have them shine a gun on us, but has that really happened anywhere? You know, they probably got some heat in Huntington Beach and some of the other cities, but be a city that steps up. That's my opinion. Maybe it's not the smart thing to do. Maybe it's stupid of me to even come up here and suggest it. But I think it's time.
I may just comment on that real quick. You know, there's a difference between spending taxpayer money to fight something you know you're going to lose versus doing something as simple as notifying your legislator, stating your position. They don't have to like our position, but I don't think we're going to get punished because we're saying, hey, please don't build 6,000 more houses in our already cramped community. So that's not even an issue to me.
Good evening again. I think there's room to have have our people possibly make some traction on this. I don't know anybody that likes this except for those few developers that are exploiting that loophole. I mean, I don't think, you know, to Ms. Casillas' point at the meeting, this doesn't help provide affordable housing or build generational wealth. This is bad. This is bad for everybody who isn't in that business, and they're exploiting a loophole. Not many people in Corona have had an issue with ADUs, but when you use the ADU loophole to basically build rental detached townhomes in a single family neighborhood, I think people could go, oh, wait a minute, hold on. We could tweak this without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It seems like there's a way that we could approach this, that we might get some traction on this particular issue, because this is the one that really chaps everybody's ass. I mean, this one right here, I don't know anybody has a problem with ADUs. I mean, if they're done correctly and they're respectful, and number one, they're built in somebody's house that owns the house. So you're not gonna have shenanigans going on because the person in the front of the house generally owns the house, and they don't want some other person they don't know. In this situation, you're literally having 3 families living on one lot, sharing one driveway, possibly one garage. You know, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster, especially when you plop 60 of them in a place that was designed for 20. So, you know, I bet on this particular issue, notwithstanding the letter, write the letter. You want to help writing it? We could write it. I've written letters like this before. So this isn't that big of a commitment of staff time that I could tell. We could help mail it. So, but on this particular issue, we could really go after this. And I feel like we'd have some traction because this particular thing they did does not help the housing situation. You know, for that matter, we could have built townhomes on it. We could have built condos on that lot, and it would have been better for the neighborhood. You would at least known everybody was going to have their parking space and their spot. You know, it's not like a circus of 3 families living on one lot. So I think we could do something about this. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sylvia, are there any other speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards.
And with that, no vote, just going forward. Next one is Vice Mayor Steiner's request for the council to consider drafting a letter to the governor opposing the transfer of death row inmates to Chino's California Institution for Men. Vice Mayor Steiner.
Thank you. Recently, Senator Serrato sent out a public safety alert just notifying different agencies that the state was transferring death row inmates from San Quentin to the Chino Institute for Men. They had already transferred 26 at the time of something. The metal fence, I believe it was, maybe the chief knows the story, but wasn't operating and hadn't been operating for 3 years. And secure facilities with very little chance that they could actually get out of it. So I just want to write a letter to the governor stating that we think this is BS, and I hope I get your support.
Well, let's fire up the pen, because apparently we're writing some letters. I certainly agree. I don't, this isn't a case of NIMBY in my opinion. This is a case of bad people need to be in places where bad people stay. And Chino Hills, or Chino, is not a place for maximum security prisoners. So let's send a letter.
I think right after I got on council, I had somebody that just moved into Corona, into the district, and said, I would have never moved to Corona if I'd have known that there was a prison in Corona. And I said, I'm sorry, there's not a prison in Corona. And they sent me to the Department of Corrections website, and sure as heck, it says Chino Hills Men's Prison, Corona, California. And in fact, I think I talked to the city manager about it and said, hey, is there any way we can change it? But that's what they're listed as. But I agree, bad people need to stay in very secure places, and I fully support drafting the letter.
I'm in support also.
I'm in support.
Real quick before that comment, let me see. I wanted to ensure that we also sent it to the director of the CDC. I'm trying to remember his name. I'll get that to you.
Okay.
That's all.
Ms. Edwards, anyone besides Maddie want to speak?
Mayor, I have 3 speaker cards for this item.
All right, Maddie, you're up first.
Just a quick comment that I did a little quick check on this. Thank you so much, Councilman Steiner. Chino is 12 miles away. Downtown, the city council county council chambers is 14 miles away. That is just way too close to comfort for comfort. I really appreciate you drafting such a letter. It would, to me, it'd be worth the time to at least try than to find something that we don't want to have happen. I'm told that, I looked up again and it said that the level 1 minimum security fencing, they have no perimeter fencing in Chino, whereas the level 4 death row have armed guards.
Actually, I thought they did have fencing. I just don't think there was armed officers. Chief, do you know?
I just looked it up, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just said that there's no perimeter fencing.
Got it. You may
When
be
I
right.
just looked at the site, maybe I'm wrong. But still, it's not armed guards. It's still just too dangerous for me. So thank you very much for considering this.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Ellis, that apparently the state changed and now it says Chino, not Corona. So thank you. Good job.
Way to get on that, Jacob. Are there other speaker cards?
Rich Wynn. I really didn't want to stay this long, but I read this item on the agenda, and I said back in the late 70s, when we first moved here, we lived up in Cresta Verde area, and in those days, there was nothing between us and Chino Hills State. I mean, there was nothing in Norco, Hidden Valley Parkway, the 15, all of that was a dream. And the Corona Daily Independent posted a notice that we had an escape, and it showed up here in Corona. And then there was another escape, and then a third escape. And the suggestion was, especially up there in Cresta Verde on the far end, where there was nothing but wild open spaces, he said, you know, if you have a handgun, carry it. The guy that we're after is a guy medium height with a trench coat and long gun under the trench coat. And so, since I was carrying concealed in the Air Force, I didn't have a problem with that. And we had our friends over for dinner. He's a deputy district attorney for Riverside County. And would you believe somebody knocked at our door, trench coat, something long under the coat. And I'm at the door with my .380 on my belt. And I looked at him and I said, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm looking for so-and-so. And I said, well, he lives 2 doors down. And thank goodness he stepped away and walked down the street, and we called the cops immediately. And my friend who was eating with us, he says, Rich, do you normally carry inside the house? I says, on notice around here? Yeah. So it does happen here, and it can happen here again. They got a lot of distance to cover and be seen by lots of people to get here, but yeah, we're right on target, Jim. Thank you very much for that letter.
I will say that the CDCR secretary is Jeffrey McComber, so we can send a letter to Mr. McComber and Mr. Gavin.
Thank you, Jim. Sylvia, was there one other speaker card?
I do have a speaker card from Joe for this item.
Joe, Joe's bailing out. Okay, public comments is now closed. Dun, dun, dun. Do I have any questions, comments from my colleagues? And I believe we're all in support. Jacob? Okay, number 44, request by council member Speak for the council to consider broadening the tree ordinance to include large native trees on all properties except single-family homes and create a process to nominate historic trees that are not on the list. Donna Finch, Community Services Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. So we received a request from Councilmember Speak to consider broadening the city's native tree ordinance to include, it's the heritage tree ordinance to include native trees that are not located on single-family properties. We are bringing this before the council to see if this is something that the council would like us to work on. So I will open it up to the council for discussion on this item.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, Tony or Wes, who wants to go first?
I can just say where this came from. Part of it was the palm trees that were on Taylor. We had to kind of have to go through a little bit of machinations to ensure that those were saved. Heritage tree and protecting of large native trees is very common. Very, very common. Riverside County has an ordinance that protects anything over a certain DBH, which means diameter at breast height. So you go up to a tree and where it hits you in the chest, you go around. If it's a certain size, then it either has to be, if you take it down, you plant 2, or you either find a way to protect it. Doesn't mean you can't do anything. It just means that you're acknowledging that there are large historic or large native trees in your community. San Jose, South Pasadena have very simple tree ordinances that I mentioned in my letter that would be great. I think one of the things that makes us a really unique community is our trees. The fact that we planted 15,000 trees in the last 3 years is a big thing, and I think that the fact that we should be protecting trees, and I'm not going on people's property on single-family homes, but I think that there's a place to expand our existing program to cover really large trees. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Wes. Tony?
I guess I'm a little confused because if this is excluding single-family homes, right? Where else are these big trees?
Trees are in the public right-of-way, trees are on commercial properties, trees are on empty land, like the ones that were on Taylor. Not on private, single-family residence.
I guess I'm sorry, Wes, I'm still just a little confused. I mean,
So the project that we approved last month on Taylor is an undeveloped property.
residential land.
Residential land, but not single-family. They weren't single-family homes. It was undeveloped land. And so if someone was going to come and develop that land, then what we would want to do is create an ordinance that would either protect them, that they would either, if they had to tear one down, in order to get their project, they would plant, 2 to 1, which is what Riverside does. Riverside County has a oak tree ordinance. If you take down any ordinance or any oak tree that's over a certain DBH, that you plant 2. And this is all I'm asking, that I think trees are important, and especially large trees.
Is any of this by chance motivated by City Park?
No.
When would,
Remember, I'm not saying that you can't do something. It means if you do something, you plant more. Like I said, that's where the reason why I listed those 2, or those 3 cities. Riverside County, San Jose, South Pasadena all have very simple tree ordinances.
Mr. Ellis, when would something like this come before us, and how could it be used?
In terms of timing on when it could be brought before you, we'd probably just need a couple of months to work on it, would be my guess. I don't think it's particularly extensive. How it would be used would depend probably on how we craft it, and so that would be discussed at the time that we would bring it back to make sure that we've crafted the policy in a way that council is comfortable with it.
I'm not opposed on the face value of saving trees, obviously.
You're suspicious. I got it.
I'm suspicious. I am.
Yeah.
Jim?
Wes, did you say that there's other cities that have the ordinance that primarily a 2-for-1? Is that what all you're
Yeah.
asking for?
I mean, it depends on the species, but yeah, it's like 2 to 1, 3 to 1. If you take a tree down, you plant 2 or 3.
Yeah, as long as it's not some weed palm tree or something, right?
Natural native trees.
Yeah.
Large native trees.
I don't think, unless there's some unintended consequence to that, I wouldn't think that asking a developer who's going to take out a nice mature tree to plant 2 more somewhere in our city.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Somewhere else in our city or on that property?
I think it has to be somewhere else in the city, because now I think you're going to.
I mean, I think in other
difficult.
places like Riverside County, they want you to do it on-site. If you can't do it on-site, then you do it off-site.
Yeah, I mean, developers look at lots and they have to clear them to build for whatever.
Right.
My angst is this is telling private people what to do with their property.
We covered this already.
I don't like. But if they wanted to, I would be okay with it if we said, listen, we're planting trees. You need to take down that tree. You need to provide us 2 trees that we're going to plant somewhere else. I would be okay with that. But they have to look at their own sites, and they have to determine what's best for their site within the scope of law.
I totally agree. I just think you could make it a condition of the developer. Maybe Joanne doesn't agree with that or could help me out with this, but it would seem to be a reasonable request. Hey, you want to develop that property? If you're going to take down that beautiful oak tree that's been there for 100 years, you got to plant 2 more. It's kind of like what we did at Chase or Lincoln and Cajon, where we asked them to build, or Waterfall, we asked them to put all the orange trees in that little lot as part of your condition to approve those 4 homes on Waterfall, right? Same kind of thing.
Once again, if I can just, as a reminder, you don't have to debate the merits of it entirely. We just want to know if you would like us to spend time working on that. And then once you have something brought back to you, you can really dig into the meat of it and make sure you're comfortable, or if you're not comfortable with it, then to have that substantive debate. We want to make sure you have all that information so that you don't have to To speculate
Sounds
too
good.
much.
And maybe Wes could get you some
If you want,
ordinances.
I'll send you all a couple of sample pieces. You guys can chew on it in the meantime.
Okay.
I'm, just for the record, I'm a no. I'm a no. You guys do what you want.
Totally surprised.
Let the record state. Joe, did you want to speak? Public hearing is now open. Joe, do you want to speak? Oh. Public something is open. The floor is yours.
I remember before you took office, we had many discussions about this. I guess I was under the impression that it was about keeping trees from getting cut down, not just exchanging mature trees for box trees. And it just seems like this kind of stuff is discussed at the Planning Commission all the time. You know, well, you're going to take these trees out. Well, maybe you could plant a couple of extra trees, or maybe they could be larger trees or more trees, or, you know, it seems like this is. I think you were talking about
the preference,
or your ordinances that make you think something is happening that isn't really happening. And it seems like this is kind of one of those where the discussion that we were talking about before, and I'm not trying to come after you on it. It just seems like a different thing than what we talked about, what we had talked about before. Because I think the discussion that we had before was talking about how at the crossings they took out or they had moved some trees, and they had to go to great effort to move these particular trees, but then at Dos Lagos and Temescal Canyon, they just went, and you're like, man, we should have something to stop that. And it seems like, you know, notwithstanding Mr. Daddario's concerns, either you try to save things that are important and historical and significant and for some extent irreplaceable, or you don't. And if you buy property, you know that there's a 200-year-old oak tree on the property, and sometimes you have to move them. Sometimes you don't have to move them. Sometimes you can work around them. And it seems like that should be more the focus, you know, that they moved them for the crossings, they can move them for other projects. And
that is the idea. And the idea is that you would save these trees, and if you can't save them, then you plant. And that's what the county's ordinance is. The county's ordinance is, in fact, the county's oak tree ordinance is a lot more stringent than a lot of places. However, we don't have a lot of oaks. I mean, the oaks that we have are
not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
But we do have, you know, other trees that would be great for us to be able to either save or mitigate.
Was that
for.
other lot Ford or something right off of Kellogg, and there was a single family development. There's a couple of oaks. They're still there. They were supposed to knock them out, and I think that track map might have expired or something. But
yeah.
There was those. I think you probably remember which one. It's right around the corner from Tom's house.
Yep.
So it was just trying to save them if you could, and I hope that whatever ordinance, if it comes up, that it's directed towards trying to keep them.
Yes.
So thank you.
All right, Jacob, I think you have enough to go off of, I hope.
Thank you, Mayor.
That said, there's a kid in the audience right now. His name is Noah, and his father's name is Moses. And Noah, I just want to say this publicly as the mayor and with the backing of all 4 council members, that you have the greatest father in the world. He works very hard at this city. He's very knowledgeable. He goes above and beyond. And I just wanted you to know that. All right, thumbs up.
How old is Noah, Mayor?
Noah, how old are you? 18? 13?
Is that middle school? Dad's got lots of riz. All the other words. We could talk about them. I know them all now.
Your father is very beloved here, Noah. Okay, moving on. We've covered it all. History, trees, depots. Planning and Housing Commission, none. Parks and Recreation Commission, none.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I just wanted to thank publicly.
Noah?
Acknowledge Noah. No, I just wanted to acknowledge that Michelle Wentworth, as I guess has been talked about, she gave her formal recognition or resignation this week. To me, it's a very sad day. She let me know that May was her last meeting. She served in this position the entire term that I've been here, plus 2 years before for Supervisor Spiegel. She's been a volunteer in the city since 2014, doing all kinds of, thankless things when it wasn't a pleasant place to be, and she was fighting uphill for a lot of really good things. I've been incredibly fortunate to have all three of my appointees serve for my entire time on council. Commissioner Sikelin, Trustee Merchant, and now Ms. Wentworth. I picked three people that were not only brought real-world experience and passion to the roles, but they really cared about the community. And Michelle is certainly one of those. She's been a force. She's very well-read, very well-thought. She's not shy about sharing her expertise. Her 10 years in the city, marked by all kinds of really good things, including a lot of volunteerism, a lot of getting people involved that wouldn't normally be involved. My experience with her and with Ms. Kenny, I'd like to thank her too for her time on the commission. We worked together as part of the Greater Toronto Traffic Alliance, and I saw these women never work as lone wolves or by themselves. They always attempted to build coalitions, build people that could, go after a problem. In fact, after a 2-year time frame, working, basically to get an auxiliary lane built on the freeway, and from a sketch drawing with an engineer to an actual lane in less than 5 years was absolutely incredible. It's one of these things I would frequently say, it's like, pushing boulders uphill, and Michelle would remind me, no, it's more like, a wet noodle up a hill. And I'm just bummed to see that that she's decided that this is her time on the Parks Commission would end. She is unapologetically passionate about about parks and trying to bring people into the process. She's not resigning because she didn't get her way. She's not resigning because she couldn't take it anymore. She's resigning because she thought that the commission's role as a whole wasn't being heard by us. I'll take some responsibility in that. I think that there was times when I think their meetings, necessarily the information and what they put forward, didn't necessarily make it word for word. And I'll give you an example. They had a half-day meeting on cost recovery for a city park, and we were literally rushed trying to get in our feasibility or our operations plan and then get up to closed session, and we literally gave it, I think, less than 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and they spent an entire half day. And I get that the fact that they're a body that recommends things, but from a standpoint where you put your heart and soul into something, and to see it be kind of gone through in 5 minutes, I could see it being hard. I don't agree with her resigning. I wish she would have stayed. But I reminded her that she's not a quitter, and I know that she's not. She won't be serving here, but I know that she'll continue to serve the community, and I want to make sure that she knows that it's the way I feel, and I hope my colleagues feel the same way. I'm very excited to see what comes next for her. I think that she'll do great things for whatever she does, and I just wanted to tell her publicly, thank her, and hopefully at some later date we can bring her back and recognize her 10 years of service with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. That was very well spoken. I first met Michelle not through the city, but through soccer, and we played against each other, and she wiped me out. She's really good at soccer too. So she's beloved by many. She'll be missed. When she resigned very dignifiedly, in a very dignified way, and much respect for her doing so. Regional meetings. Regional meeting update from Councilmember Tony Daddario on the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority, RCA meeting of June 3rd, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. This will be brief. Everything that we talked about was in closed session, so there's nothing to report. However, I do want to say that a couple of my colleagues did speak up about bringing back Species of the Month. And so RCA had a reason for kind of not doing that for a little bit. They were trying to work on a couple different things, but they committed to bringing that back. So hopefully next month we have an update on Species of the Month Club.
Were you the driver behind that?
No, I wasn't. It was actually Beaumont. My colleague from Beaumont had asked about it and said, you know, what happened to it and why aren't we doing that anymore? And so then I raised my hand and I said, yeah, we really like Species of the Month. Because especially on meetings like this where I have nothing to report because it was all closed session, at least I would be able to talk about a pretty cool species.
It would be nice to know about the Santa Ana suckerfish.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Regional meeting report, update from Councilmember West Speak on the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, SAPA, One Watershed Steering Committee. Boy, you must have had fun with that, Wes.
You got to say, oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Is it a real committee?
It is. It's a real committee.
Like, how do you find these committees that you are on? That
You appointed it to me when you appointed me when you were mayor. I mean, I know you're barely here, but you got to remember, you're the one that actually appointed me. But good job.
I'm fairly certain that you just said, "I'll do it. I want to do it."
Unfortunately, there wasn't a quorum, so we didn't have to weigh in on anything. But we did go over some proposals for disadvantaged community funding. And some mapping. Unfortunately, one of the cities bailed out through they didn't have enough matching funds, but we were able to partner with the Saboba Indian Tribe, and very happy that project is going forward. We did a review of, let's see, there was round 2 funding of about $6 million, 13 projects in total. None of them were in the city of Corona. And we did a climate adaptation resilience plan that's being filed now. And we are, let's see, we didn't vote on that because there wasn't a quorum. And then we had a summary of our weather modification cloud seeding program that it was very successful. And believe it or not, there aren't planes going around dropping things in the air, then contrails aren't a thing, at least that are cloud seeding. These are actually ground-fired rockets that go up certain times, and it came out very well. So we're hoping to see the final report at the next meeting, and I'll report back on how that goes. That's it. Thank you.
Riveting. All right. Update from Councilmember West Speak on the Board of Directors of the Western Riverside County Regional Wastewater Authority.
Got to say RCRA.
RCRA?
All the best things. RCRA and oh wow.
Oh wow.
Just one item. We normally don't meet, but there was a approval of a budget increase of $130,000 for the Temescal Siphon Improvement Project. That's it.
Okay, the next one is, I know how this all goes. Went to the board meeting, all the buses are free for the next 9 years. But with that, it'll be an update from Vice Mayor Jim Steiner on the Riverside Transit Agency RTA board meeting.
I'll keep it short due to the hour. Juneteenth, there'll be no bus service on Wednesday, June 19th. We approved the fiscal year 2024-25 operating budget, capital budget, short range transit plan, and we did a bunch of other stuff, but you guys don't care.
None of the buses were free?
Maybe.
Okay. City Attorney's report. Mr. Derleth is out sick this evening, and we've been graced with Miss Raymond's presence. Do you have any comments?
Thank you. The council met in closed session on items 3 and 4. Items 1 and 2 will be brought back at a later date, and there was no reportable action.
All right. Mr. Ellis, do you have any comments?
Mayor, just a quick thing to point out. I don't know if anybody noticed, but we have our new seal mounted on the front of the dais. So if no one's had a chance to check that out, it's sly because it's right where the old one was, but it has been refreshed.
Well,
our staff team did an outstanding job of that. You can see it on the camera here in front of you on the TV. And so just wanted to thank our team for all of their work in getting that put together. I think it looks really, really good. So just wanted to point that out for your viewing pleasure.
Say, it looks so good, none of us noticed. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But it looks good, though. It looks really good.
Nicely done, Ellis. Nicely done. And team. Probably Andrew Kim, home with the baby. Okay, do any city council members have any reports and comments? Tony?
I do. I wanted to give a shout out to our community services team. They're doing, if you're not following Corona Rec on all the social medias, then you really should. They've been doing a lot of great things and getting a lot of great acts and entertainment that line up. So the two that I really wanted to highlight was on Father's Day, Charles Phoenix will be doing a show at the Historic Civic Center. And he's a great entertainer that does a lot of good stuff about history, because I'm a historian. Love the history. A lot of stuff that that architects would like, because he is big into mid-century modern and a lot of kitsch stuff. So he puts on a great show. That's going to be on Father's Day. I already got my tickets. I was excited to see that. And then also at the HCC, and the city manager and I were talking about this earlier, they're going to have James Gardner's tribute to Johnny Cash. And for those of us that are big Johnny Cash fans, that's where he got his, not at our HCC, but he got his start playing in theaters like the HCC. So I got to imagine that this is going to be a great show. That's going to be August 16th. But most importantly, really wanted to thank our Parks and Rec department for thinking outside of the box and getting some really cool stuff to provide entertainment for our city. So make sure that you follow them on social media, because it is different than the Corona pages, even though Mr. Ellis and I had a whole discussion about that earlier.
Nicely done, fellow historian Tony. Historian Wes?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. One, I attended an opening of The Shed, which is the community area at Bedford. And Vice Mayor and I went there, and the beautiful mural that was done on their building, and done a great bit of work there. Talked to the one of the developers there. They were so excited to hear about our utility box program, that the guy literally followed me around for 15 minutes and said, "Hey, how do we do that? How do we get incorporated in that program?" And I heard from many other people, and I'm just so happy to see how far it's gone. I think the last one went up. Is that correct? The last one was installed. Looking forward to seeing that come back and expand. I think I had at least 3 emails this week or last week of people asking, "Hey, how can we do this? How can we do more?" Just so pleased to see us, carry that on going forward. I wanted to. I think I had a couple people that were a little bit upset that they had tried to attend the downtown meeting that we had, but they were told that the tickets were sold out. But then, I know it sounds like we booked double and only a quarter of people showed up, so maybe more. I don't know. But other people told me that there was still room, so maybe we need to adjust that just so other folks can continue to show up for those things. And then lastly, I think probably the mayor and I are probably the only people that know this name, but Diane Marsh passed away in February. Diane wrote a book, probably the second book on Corona history. Didn't live here very long. She moved to Anaheim in 1976 and founded the Anaheim Historical Society, much to Councilmember Daddario's ire. But she passed away in February, and her family wrote a letter saying that she held Corona in much esteem and kept in contact with folks that lived here, and she thought that we would want to know that she had passed. So I'd love to, if there's no objection, to adjourn in her honor.
Yeah, for sure. She's an all-star. Jackie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to apologize. I did not submit these reports, but I attended our annual TUMF Northwest Zone Executive Committee meeting on May 29th, and I'm happy to report that thanks to staff and our partnerships, so Mr. Kampu, Mr. Ellis, and our partnerships with RCTC and WRCOG, there was a recommendation and our Northwest Zone cities, our colleague cities agreed to allocate some more TUMP funding for McKinley grade separation. And it could not come at a better time. It's over 8 million additional dollars, 10 million total, over 8 million new. Mr. Kampu, am I wrong? I might be wrong.
It's 10 million total.
10 million total. And we agreed during this meeting, it's 10 million total, but we didn't have 10 million to begin with. We had already gotten 2. So that meeting agreed to increase it by 8 million. Thank you. Okay. So that's a big deal. Anyway, so that's a report I'm giving back that I did not say that I was going to provide, but sorry for that. And then I also attended WRCOG on Monday, just 2 days ago. That's why it's tough for me, because it's just 2 days before these meetings, and you never know. We have to have these in by Thursday before the meeting. So anyway, the only thing of real note at Monday's meeting, in my opinion, was we received the annual report of IREN, the 2022 annual report. Listen, we met all of our goals. That being said, I think everyone's getting a little antsy for IREN to start providing some more tangible benefits. But we're there. We're ready. 2022 is good. We've set the groundwork. So I'm looking forward to actually reporting back on some more IREN deliverables. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Regarding the letter regarding Chino and Stuferman, I think I may have given you the wrong CDCR director, so just make sure you get that. And then a friend reminded me also that there's a strong possibility that a death row inmate could end up at Corona Regional due to a real emergency or a fake emergency. So, now they're in our city, so all the more better of a reason to write this letter. Also, I do want to also thank my friend Michelle Wentworth for her services on our Parks and Rec Commission. So thank you.
Okay, just a couple items. The Memorial Mile March was held that weekend. It was good to see one and all out. If you don't know what that is, many people showed up. There's like 300 people showed up, and they carried a flag with the name of a Corona that had died in war. And they marched from the Chamber of Commerce to the historic Civic Center. And it's just cool to see when your community comes together like that. And then the next day, or a couple days later, Wes and I were able to go to the cemetery, to the Soldiers Monument, where they held a ceremony there in remembrance of those who have fallen for our city. And then I got a text from my mother that a kid that I went to high school with ended up killing someone for murder and is in the Chino prison, and that she supports her favorite council member's letter avidly. So nicely done, Jim. And with that, we'd like to close the council meeting in honor of Diane Marsh. She wrote a great book. It's blue. It's really, really good history, and it goes even to when the Indians lived here. And we close in her honor. Thanks, and adjourned.